Court. In a majority decision of 5-2, Lovelace Johnson JSC and Amadou Tanko JSC dissenting on the issue of jurisdiction, the plaintiff's action succeeds. The full reasons and orders of the court shall be filed with the registrar by close of day tomorrow, 13th November 2024. This is the judgment of the court.
The fact that the Supreme Court interprets the Constitution does not mean that they are above anybody. In fact, there are judges sitting on the bench. One of them is my classmate. My juniors are on the bench. But once they go and sit there, even if it's my own child sitting there, I cannot but bow and give the person respect, not for the person, but for the office and for the law. And we expect every other Ghanaian to also respect the law. We don't all agree on what is said and what is done. There are several times that I've disagreed with what is said and what is done. But because of the respect for the rule of law, because of the respect for the Constitution, we just keep quiet and follow the law, hoping that if we don't agree, another opportunity will come that we'll be able to express ourselves. So what has happened today, we have not seen the reasons. We are happy because we came to court because we believed that the right thing was that the people had not by their action vacated their seats. So what has happened to them, we are happy about it. Tomorrow, the reasons will come out. And when the reasons come out, as lawyers, then we can look at the reasons and what the court has said, and then we can discuss it. In fact, the fact that the court has ruled in your favor does not mean that you agree with the reasons. You might decide that even the reasons some of the judges gave, you do not agree with it. Two of the judges talked about jurisdiction. We don't know what they said, so tomorrow we will know. And when we know, we will prepare to answer more questions in detail. But as was said by the leader, as far as I'm concerned, today democracy has won, constitutionalism has won.
And Babi has lost.
Nobody has lost. Democracy has won, constitutionalism has won, and nobody has lost.
Well, that's Joe Garte there, the lead counsel for Alexander Penyomakin. He was talking about the reasons not being known. Now we know the reasons in this 109-page reasoned ruling by the justices of the Supreme Court. So that's going to be the major point of our conversation, because there are so many aspects that has attracted so many reactions, which we would get into here on Key Point. As always, good morning from our studios here at Desawe in Accra, and welcome to the Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. Here on Key Point, we discuss the most topical issues of the week that are of concern to you, the Ghanaian people, with our well-informed, passionate, committed guests who have just one thing at heart: the development of this country and for the greater good. This week, the Supreme Court of Ghana earlier, this week, had a 5-2 decision that ruled that the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford-Bagbin, Right Honorable's declaration of the 4 seats vacant is unconstitutional. Revolving around Speaker Bagbin's interpretation of Article 97(1) GNH of the Constitution, cited as the basis for declaring the seats vacant. In fact, so many other aspects of this that has met a legal and political pushback, and also the true and detailed reasoning of the Supreme Court has generated so much that we're going to talk about. The definition of what the political association or affiliation of the Supreme Court is, and whether it sits within the understanding and remits of Article 97(1) GNH as has been interpreted by the Supreme Court. What was the reasoning behind the framers of the Constitution putting 97(1) GNH there? We need to understand what the reasoning was and whether how things are played out now also fits within that reasoning. And if the consequence of 97(1) GNH cannot be felt or cannot be implemented in the current parliament, but in the future parliament, the Speaker of Parliament also had his own position on whether the consequence of violating Article 97(1) GNH should be of future consequence or the current consequence. That's a conversation that we would have. This 109-page judgment released by the Supreme Court would have a conversation on this particular matter this morning here on Key Point. And it is for the greater good. And I have a very, very big surprise for you this morning as well. So stay with us. Also, coming up, we'll continue our discussion on the state of the economy and also how your personal economy is looking. We'll have a conversation on that because per the verdict of government, the pre-COVID indicators are actually being witnessed in some sectors of the economy now. How does that translate into your personal verdict? It's a conversation that we'll have this morning. And the matters of galamsey, illegal mining, we took our eyes off the ball just a little bit, but we are back to it because the president says that as a father and grandfather, he's just thinking about the kind of wealth that he's leaving behind for his grandchildren and his children as well. So we'll have a conversation this morning. As always, you're an integral part of it. Let's hear from you through our various social media platforms and other means that you can connect with us. We are live on a number of radio stations across the country. But as always, welcome to Key Point. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. My guest will join me. We'll start the conversation right now. I am Alfredo Kanse. Welcome.
Santex and Crown Paints. Excellent paint that is resistant to peeling, mold, algae, and fungus. It comes in a wide range of colors with high opacity, high spread rate, and dries fast with no afterpaint stench. Santex and Crown Paints are distributed by Bamson Company Limited. Locate us at Sickens House, Old Fatima Road, South Industrial Area, Accra, or any of our branches in Atabraka, East Legon, Tema, and Adum in Kumasi. Call or WhatsApp us on 0573839640. Santex and Crown Paint. It's not just paint, it's personal.
Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia #1 on the ballot.
Stuck on you. Ooh, obsessed with you. I'm obsessed.
With Showmax, your favorite characters now follow you anywhere. Download it today and watch the best in local, international, and everything.
The luckiest.
Star 712 hash.
Luck is everywhere.
8K. Hey, you can get 8K. Get the packing so you can one line. Hey, wait.
You can put it on his tab. This is my man.
Good luck. Hey, yo, we'll be ready. We are star 712. It's put you phone. I'm on dialing the magic numbers. Star 712. Now welcome to the luckiest. Aha, and now with me at home ticket. You can buy for yourself or your loved one.
Mommy, tell mommy who's here.
You're buying for me, right?
Or who else?
Oh.
Let me choose buy tickets for others.
Love you, boo boo.
Maybe straight to option 4. Now, you need to buy tickets worth 50 Ghana to qualify. Yes, you can buy random or preferred tickets. I'm choosing random tickets. Listen, if you buy the random ticket, the system chooses a random number for you. But if you buy the preferred, you get to input your own preferred 5 digits. 5.
Baby, give me your 5 numbers.
And how much are we buying?
Babe, look at the body and buy you.
With your body,
So good, miss.
Hey, there we are. Tread cautiously. Now follow the prompts and confirm. Now the luckiest.
The luckiest is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform, not for persons below 18 years. TNCs apply.
Oh, Manson, what is happening?
Sit down.
Manson, why is your shop so empty?
You have reminded me of my sorrow. You were with me when I went to the bank for a loan to establish this place. The bank is chasing me for their money now. The interest alone is 40% every year. I can't restock because of the exchange rate. Today the dollar is 15, tomorrow 16, and it's even getting to 17. Why? The price of an item, 1 cedi today, 10 cedis tomorrow. The numerous taxes, high electricity and water bills are killing me. I can't plan, I can't save, I can't even repay my loan. All my capital is gone. Oh! Who will save me out of my misery? It's okay. I'm suffering. Where is help?
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
This is Hot Issues, your passport to the most compelling conversations of our time. We go one-on-one with the movers and shakers, the thought leaders, and the game changers. We ask the questions that matter, and we don't back down.
Tonight on Hot Issues, I sit with the man at the Center of Corruption Investigations.
Join me on Hot Issues here on TV3.
Hot Issues shows Sundays at 2 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
This week is Mashup Rendition theme on Mentor. Our talents are pushing the boundaries, blending genres, and reimagining music. It's going to be a fusion of sounds. Eviction looms as at least 2 of our talents will be saying goodbye. Cast your votes for your favorite contestants before 7 p.m. on Sunday, November 17th. Dial *713*13# or download the MG Reality app to vote. Mentor, the world awaits you.
Mentor 13 is powered by Shaltox Lozenges.
Sponsored by Darling Lemon Drink, Darling XYZ Wine, Blue Jeans Energy Drink, Enapa Foods, Frutelli Calipo, Obuasi Nubunawo Mwankasa.
After an exciting journey filled with creativity, flavors, and fierce competition, Kitchen Wars reaches its grand finale. 4 alumni schools, each representing the best of culinary passion and skills, are ready to face off in the final battle. Who will rise to claim the title of this season? Will it be Laboni Senior High, Infant Smith School, Tamale Senior High, or Yas Santua Girls? Saturday, 30th November is the date. The venue, Ifwa Sutherland Park. Time is 10 a.m.
Kitchen Wars!
Expect an unforgettable day of culinary magic surprises. Will your favorite school take home the bragging rights? Don't miss this mouth-watering finale. Kitchen Wars, your school fit cook.
Kitchen Wars is brought to you by Kivo Foods, Everpack, Mazim Foods, Miss Cookie Spices,
Chana Shito. The TV3 National Kids Festival is here. Happening live on November 30th at the Ifo Sutherland Park from 10 a.m. Come and showcase your products and connect with hundreds of families, whether you sell toys, kids clothing, snacks, food, or anything family friendly. We want you there. Register now to reserve your spot and make this festival a day to remember for everyone. Want to sign up or need more info? Please call 0555 004105 right now. Don't miss out on the chance to be a part of the biggest children's event of the year. It's the TV3 National Kids Festival 2024. It's 20 Ghana cedis for kids and free for adults, happening at the Ifo Sutherland Park on the 30th of November from 10 a.m. And it's proudly powered by TV3 and proudly sponsored by Day by Day Kids.
This week on Today's Woman, we have a very emotional conversation.
We are not who we want to be.
Okay.
We are who God has asked us to be.
Our guest, Dr. Annie Gevelis Amo Osai. You must know her favorite place. Which is it?
I think that one place that really excites her and she talks about all the time is Venice.
Is where?
Venice.
Oh,
Venice.
I love the way you were like, yes.
But-
So he got it.
but-
Make a date with us this Saturday, 3 p.m. right here on TV.
Today's Woman with Cookie Tea shows Saturdays at 3 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by Vlisco.
Encounter the true spirit of prophecy, which is the testimony of Jesus Christ, and awaken to the limitless life of God beyond your wildest imaginations through the power of prophecy with Prophet Elvis Mbonye. Now every Saturday, 11 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.
Power of Prophecy shows this and every Saturday at 11 p.m. on TV3.
From Kweku Redeemer to Asa. You put your current and your ex in the same kitchen. What will happen?
Get ready for the ultimate culinary reality show, Drama in the Kitchen. Imagine the tensions as family members, in-laws, or even exes step into the same kitchen.
She's short, people to like giant lady.
I be one make thunder fire you. It be Baba God we go punish.
Are you a spouse, partner, or maybe even a parent with a point to prove? Could you outcook your partner's ex or go head-to-head with your mother or father-in-law? To participate, WhatsApp the number on your screen 0552 485 856. Drama in the Kitchen coming soon.
Brought to you by Betway.
We've got a comedian, we've got a spoken word artist, we've got a everything song tonight. A lot of people don't know, say, me, I do the down flat, the challenge, me, I create them.
Big Joe. Giovanni.
Chemical. So, I mean, where have you been?
I actually recently hit 0. I actually called a suicide helpline.
Penin become penin sem. Ofra betwa and system. Dia kenyana wo nyame nsem. Be my woman, oh make you be my woman, oh make you be my woman.
Showbiz 360 shows every Saturday at 8 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
Betway. Winner big.
Cowbell Coffee.
It's important to sometimes pause and ask yourself what your mental state is like. Mental health is all about how healthy our mindset is.
Somebody is going through or has reached that point where they are at the brink of falling off. That is when we start talking about, you know, people not knowing that actually this is a clear symptom of some type of mental unwellness. Wow! Yes, girl!
The Ladies Circle shows this Saturday at 6 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by Yaz Sanitary Pad, MTN.
Yaz toothpaste and brushes. Woodine.
Cowbell Coffee. Betway.
Hello, welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. We're also on a number of radio stations across the country. There's so many ways that you can connect with us here on Key Point. And this week, it's all about getting into the minds of the Supreme Court justices on this matter of the controversy around these 4 seats as declared vacant. Now, the detailed ruling and the reasoning of the Supreme Court justice were released on Thursday. And we have had a number of views, comments, and opinions on this matter. But before that, let's just set the premise and how this case has traveled over the period until now. On the 15th of October, Alexander Penyomakin filed an injunction on the matter of Haruna Idrisu's petition, in fact, to have the Speaker declare these 4 seats vacant. Haruna Idrisu, on that same day, petitioned the Speaker on the 17th of October, Parliament sat. The Speaker of Parliament, after reading a detailed reasoning, and the decision eventually communicated that as a result of that detailed reasoning, and he also gave his understanding of 97(1)(g) and (h) per the decisions as given in precedent, also in reference to precedents that was set, and then communicated, as was clearly stated then on 17th of October, that it wasn't a ruling, but he sought to communicate what had been the case. On the 18th of October, as we saw, an ex parte motion or application at the Supreme Court by Alexander Afenyo-Markin to halt the Speaker's decision. On the 22nd of October, Parliament sat. The Speaker adjourned sine die. The MPP MPs were not in Parliament. Then a process of recall was triggered by the NPP MPs on the 24th of October. The memo, the number of them signing, including the second deputy whip leading that charge. As a result, on the 7th of November, Parliament was recalled, but the MPP MPs did not attend to the business of the House, albeit for the urgent government business that was said to have taken place or was scheduled for that particular day. The Speaker indicated there was no business captured on the other papers of then. Alexander Afenyo-Markin thought otherwise. Then another adjournment indefinitely. On the 12th of November, the Supreme Court delivered its ruling on the substantive case that was before it. 2 days later, they released the full reasoning behind the 5-2 decision that was communicated and also delivered. I want us to take a look at first the reactions that greeted this particular ruling, and also Jogate, who led Alexander Afenyo-Markin's charge at the Supreme Court. Take a look.
By court, in a majority decision of 5-2, Lovelace Johnson JSC and Amadou Tanko JSC dissenting on the issue of jurisdiction, the plaintiff's action succeeds. The full reasons and orders of the court shall be filed with the registrar by close of day tomorrow, 13th November 2024. This is the judgment of the court.
Most grateful. The fact that the Supreme Court interprets the Constitution does not mean that they are above anybody. In fact, there are judges sitting on the bench. One of them is my classmate. My juniors are on the bench. But once they go and sit there, even if it's my own child sitting there, I cannot but bow and give the person respect, not for the person, but for the office and for the law. And we expect every other Ghanaian to also respect the law. We don't all agree on what is said and what is done. There are several times that I've disagreed with what is said and what is done. But because of the respect for the rule of law, because of the respect for the Constitution, we just keep quiet and follow the law, hoping that if we don't agree, another opportunity will come that we'll be able to express ourselves. So what has happened today, we have not seen the reasons. We are happy because we came to court because we believed that the right thing was that the people had not by their action vacated their seats. So what has happened to them, we are happy about it. Tomorrow, the reasons will come out. And when the reasons come out, as lawyers, then we can look at the reasons and what the court has said, and then we can discuss it. In fact, the fact that the court has ruled in your favor does not mean that you agree with the reasons. You might decide that even the reasons some of the judges gave, you do not agree with it. Two of the judges talked about jurisdiction. We don't know what they said.
So tomorrow we will know. And when we know, we will prepare to answer more questions in detail. But as was said by the leader, as far as I'm concerned, today democracy has won, constitutionalism has won.
And Babi has lost.
Nobody has lost. Democracy has won, constitutionalism has won, and nobody has lost.
Monday, I spent my whole day in Parliament. Mr. Speaker was not available. Tuesday, same. Later in the afternoon, I was told that Mr. Speaker was challenging the okayedness of the court. So he has instructed his lawyers to file a motion to set it aside. So we should go to court. When we return from court, we'll see what to be done. Put that aside. The Council of State reached out to me again that they have spoken to Mr. Speaker, and Mr. Speaker concedes that he has not made a ruling and that the NDC will move to their own seat. He gave them the assurance. Council of State communicated that to us. We said, okay, if in all of these Mr. Speaker decides to resign, what should I do? I should go and sit on the minority seat? Spiritually, it's not even good. You have 3 weeks to election. I should go and sit on minority. Is that my seat? I won't dare sit there. I will never do it. I will never do it. That's not my rightful place. I should go to minority. Spiritually, make myself a minority person. No. And bind my colleagues. We won't do that. No MPP person will do that. In any event, we were privy to certain things that we cannot make public. That if our colleagues had entered the chamber to attempt to enforce their rights, perhaps we wouldn't be here.
By court, in a majority decision of 5-2, Lovelace Johnson JSC and Amadou Tanko JSC dissenting on the issue of jurisdiction, the plaintiff's action succeeds. The full reasons and orders of the court shall be filed with the registrar by close of day tomorrow, 13th November 2024. This is the judgment of the court.
So, as you have it there, and as you have heard, we now have the full reasoning, 109 pages of it. And in fact, I spent most part of last night for the last 2 nights, getting into this morning, teasing out the areas, because the 109 pages, obviously, we cannot get it all out to you, but there are some salient and very germane issues that were raised in that 109 pages that we would get into. And my guests joining me in studio, they're coming in one after the other. We have Professor Ransford Jampo. He's a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, Legon, and also a governance expert with international repute. Professor Ransford Jampo, good morning. Welcome to Key Point.
Morning. You know, you can check my record as a political scientist who is passionate about good governance in a manner that translates into tangible developmental outcome that would affect all Ghanaians positively. And I've always strived to use the canons of my discipline to subject governments to strict proof and to demand accountability. And so because of that, check my records. I criticized Jerry Rawlings, I criticized J.A. Kufuor, I criticized Professor Mills, I criticized John Mahama, and I've been very critical of Nana Akufo-Addo's government. But these have been not out of malice. They have always been intended to ensure that the right thing is done to improve the lot of Ghanaians. And that's why sometimes too I praise when praises are deserved. Sometimes I applaud when I believe that things have been done well, much to the surprise of some stomach-directed party food soldiers who would then be surprised. Hey, today he's praising us. We don't criticize just for the sake of it. You criticize where you have to criticize.
Indeed.
And when things have been done well and you think that it deserves praises, you have to also give, praises. Now, I've gotten to this particular point in time, especially in the lead up to this election and in the twilight of the end of President Akufo-Addo's regime. And I think I'm taking a decision that I'm no longer going to criticize President Akufo-Addo's government again.
Why?
Because the government has checked out. Its ministers have all packed out in their hats. Technically speaking, there's no government, and in my view, the nation is on autopilot. And because you are criticizing to put pressure on a government to be able to do something, if the government has checked out, then in my view, it will merely amount to romancing a stone to continue to be criticizing a government that has already checked out. If you think that something new, some changes can be effected to Akufo-Addo's governance, if you are expecting between now and December 7, if you're expecting Akufo-Addo to do anything, then maybe you don't understand. But I think that they have checked out. Some of them, they are appointees, they are friends. You speak to them behind the scenes. They are goners. And so I would focus more of my attention on the campaign of Dr. Bawumia, the campaign of President Mahama, and the campaign of Alan Shemanting and the rest. And you see, this is one of the key reasons why UTAG suspended a strike. You see, the strike was aimed at putting pressure on the government. But as we sit, we don't know whether Parliament is in existence. As we sit, you want to speak to ministers and they say that we are begging you, we are in our constituencies campaigning. There's no government, technically. And so, if there is no government, like I said, you cannot continue to romance a stone. We believed in President Akufo-Addo. Let me tell you, people who don't know, go and check the role we played when we were working at the IE. We worked with people like Mark Menu, people like Nano Hininto to create, to give the Ghana Political Parties Program platform that assisted in doing so many things that all culminated into the electoral success of President Akufo-Addo. But I think at this point in time, in any meaningful assessment of the government of Akufo-Addo, people would know that he has dissipated the goodwill that we have in him. And between now and election 2024, I'm not expecting Akufo-Addo to be able to do anything meaningful, effect any meaningful change. So we have stopped criticizing him. Bye-bye, bye-bye, President Akufo-Addo.
Professor Answer Jampo, thank you. But something that you would have a say on as we go on that he has said. So if it's a matter of having an opinion on what he has said and on his government, I tell you, as we go on, because it's a matter of UTAG and you went on strike because of that, you will say something. Also joining me is the Member of Parliament for the Ningo Pram constituency. He's a member of a number of committees in this 8th Parliament. He's seeking the mandate of the people of Ningo Pram to go into the 9th Parliament, and then also leads the communications, that's committee of the John Mahama 2024 campaign team. The Honorable Samuel Nate George, good morning, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
This is Macho Man.
Oh. Why are you doing this?
Oh, Charlie Prof.
He's been pumping metals. Look at the chest. You brought as if were
wait, I don't, please.
I'm the grandson and son of the former chief fisherman.
Thank you.
So,
perfect. Right on.
So my chest is genetic.
Yeah, but it's good to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a while of being. It's been a while of being in the studios and generally. The media space. It's been almost over a month since I did any media engagement. I read in the constituency. That's looking good, but yeah, pleasure to be here. Apologies for the hoarse voice. I mean, it's repeated community engagements and rallies. And we've been touring the country as well, visiting and supporting our colleagues across the region. I've been in Bono, constant region, being in the northern region, being in the eastern region as well, in the Volta region. Just trying to support a few of our colleagues there as well, and parliamentary candidates. And it's looking pretty good for us. A one-touch victory for President Mahama and a solid majority of almost 160 seats in parliament.
You're seeing 160 seats. Okay.
Almost
160
seats.
seats.
Yeah.
Well, since his name has already been mentioned, so let me go to him now. He's also a member of parliament for the Old Tafo constituency on the ticket of the MPP, and also a member of a number of committees in this 8th parliament. The Honorable Vincent Eko Asefwa. Good morning to you.
Nice.
And please.
Alfred, good morning. How are you?
Oh. Just of this. I'm well, thank you.
Good.
How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
There's a lot that's been happening in the Ashanti region as well.
Yes. And unlike St. George, I have been in the media for some time. Except to say that I've been doing that remotely.
Right.
I've also been in my constituency campaigning vociferously for the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party. Tafo constituency is the center of Kumasi, and so obviously the love for the New Patriotic Party since 1992 has been exhibited by the number of votes that they gave to the New Patriotic Party. Of course, they are also going to vote for the New Patriotic Party because of the giant flagship programs that the New Patriotic Party has implemented. His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has proven to be one of the best presidents ever that this country has ever had, especially if you can glean that from the projects that he has implemented. Today, if you go to all the districts in this country, you have drip machines that is also helping the various districts to be able to make road accessibility easier for all districts in this country.
Okay.
This is a president. This is a president who has also made sure that from 1st December we are going to have kidney dialysis treatment for free being done for members of this.
That's an issue that here's what I'm going to do.
When Prof started, you allowed
because this is a policy statement. It's a policy statement that you're making. And so if you make that policy statement to the extent that you make a policy statement, you draw me, because I've been looking at it as well.
The piloting has been done, and
because you are in parliament.
We are starting that on the 1st of December. Also, when you talk about inflation, you realize that today inflation has reduced to the barest minimum. Increasing
to the barest minimum to how much?
Increasing the purchasing
What's the percentage
power
now?
The Ghanaian people. It used to be 52. Are you aware?
No, wait. You're saying to the barest minimum.
54. It used to be about 54%. Today,
how much?
Today, inflation rate is around 25-26%. And so clearly, you could see that the purchasing power of the Ghanaian people has been increased.
Vincent, you know what? Vincent, hold on. You see, I don't want you to dwell into. No. Wait. Relax. Don't relax. What Prof said. Prof.
You didn't say anything.
What Prof said specifically was on his opinion about the decision not to criticize President Akufo-Addo. What you are saying, I'm coming.
I first said that you are diabolic.
What you are saying is not one that.
2 minutes to be able to say.
It's okay. You're free to say anything. The verdict is with the people. If you say to me that because inflation has reduced, the purchasing power of the Ghanaian people have gone high, that is factually inaccurate, because inflation reduction does not necessarily lead to a reduction in the price of goods and services. It is economically non-factual.
That is your understanding.
It is not my understanding. It is what the fact is.
If inflation rate was 54%, you go to the market, you are going to buy things at a rate of 54% increment. As compared to the amount of money that you paid previously. And today the inflation rate is 24%. Then you are suggesting to me,
Vincent, let me. Okay, you know what? It's okay. Let me educate you a bit on this.
Will not have any
Vincent. No. Let me educate you on this. Wait. Inflation is a continuous rise in the prices of goods and services over a period.
Yes.
The fact that inflation reduces does not directly impact.
No,
I'm coming. On the prices of goods and services. It only means that the rate of increase has slowed or reduced. You cannot say that the prices of goods and services have reduced on the market.
You were going to buy it more had it not been increased. You are going to buy it more.
Vincent,
so that's the point I'm making. So the rate of increment has indeed slowed down. And that is why I'm saying that the inflationary rate has reduced. So you cannot say that this is a bad government. Why? We know that the inflationary rate went overboard because of the exigence of time.
You know what? Guess what? We have a conversation.
Now that things
we have a conversation on the economy.
Now that things
since you have mentioned it, we have a conversation on the economy coming up. And that's one thing. No. Relax. Sam George didn't even spend a minute saying anything. But so thank you. We would have a conversation on the economy. But because you mentioned all of the other things, which we have also been talking about, you would draw me in to ask questions. Because if you talk about dialysis from December 1 and so on, because you were in Parliament, you approved this budget, you approved the NHIS budget as well. We haven't seen that as a line item in all the allocations that have been approved. So I would find out from you where the money is coming from to finance this free dialysis that you talk about from December 1. It is very important because we, the Ghanaian people, need to know. And this is why I also acknowledge the presence of Martin Kwebu, who is a private legal practitioner, and then also one of 3 leaders of the individual bondholder groups, also the leader of the Kumipreko demonstration, and it's one of the foremost human rights lawyers we have in this country. Good morning, Counsel.
Morning, Mr. Kazi. Morning, you know what, Bimi?
Please.
As if why is asking me that, what has Ekufuado done to me? Ekufuado has collapsed my clients, friends, relations, businesses by his reckless government. You are asking what has Ekufuado done to me? You know the businesses they've collapsed? The businesses they've collapsed, people's pensions. Michael Ejekumado. The Kama. You saw Kama weeping like a small boy. Look at what you've done to Kama. Business owner shut down.
I think he's late now.
You put out of business.
He's dead.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, he's dead.
No, but
he's dead. You're asking what has Ekufuado? Ekufuado has killed people, and now made his family rich. He's killed people. Oforiata pulled data bank licenses, thousands of bankers. He's killed people. He's killed people. Oforiata,
so how do you mean?
Oforiata went after
what exactly do you mean?
Later, when data bank couldn't pay people, they shut down. But nobody, Ogbami, because Ogbami is Oforiata's progeny, or let's say protege, what did he do? He couldn't revoke data bank's license. But data bank couldn't pay. What are you saying? Anyway, so once again, let me greet Gamanche, King Taki Temple Churu the second. Gamanche, more fire. You know what? So, Council, let me mention this. On Thursday, a certain Mr. Tete, Kwesi Tete from the US, called me and said he's very happy that, we acknowledge Gamanche for his efforts, right, in promoting good governance, in saying that we must hold duty bearers accountable. We must push them to get justice in the Cecilia Dapa matter. So on that score, he was giving me a cow, right?
He was giving you a cow?
A cow, yeah. So he's giving me direction to the ranch. I'll take delivery of the cow and then we'll share it on this panel. Yeah, that's Mr. Kwesi Tete from the US, right? So let me greet Sofo Ekufu Yasantwa, more fire. Let's always remember Sofo Ekufu is a relation to President Ekufuado, but she's never shied away from holding Ekufuado accountable. DDEP, you've given us so much haircut. Me, I'm even bald now. Yet you gave us haircuts, and people were already bald, and you are still giving haircuts. So it's not our heads you are cutting, right? And of course, Osia dear your Dr. Ajiman Bedu the second. But Mahine, more fire. All right.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Let me, the last one, Auditor General Johnson Equiamwa Esiedu, please, that 52.5 billion, let's find that money. 52.5 billion is more than what we are borrowing from the IMF. This money cannot continue to be lost.
Okay.
Please don't think about yourself alone and your family. That's a public trust. You issue this letter in December 2020 that you will find the money.
Okay.
4 years on, you can't find it. And you are still keeping your office.
And this is a matter
we'll come
that...
to Galamsey. I want to remind IG about the Chairman Wuntmi case.
We'll come to it.
We need that case to go to court before the elections.
Okay.
Wuntmi must face the courts.
To the extent that this matter of the 52 billion is one that we are keeping the steam on because we would have to get some answers to it as well. But this leads us to the matter on which we are gathered here this morning. The Supreme Court delivered a 5-2 ruling this week on the substantive case regarding the 4 vacant seats that was so declared by the Speaker of Parliament after the petition by the Honorable Haruna Idrisu. Let me also acknowledge the presence of Bobby Bansin. Bobby Bansin is a private legal practitioner. He's joining us as well. Counsel, good morning. Bobby Bansin, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Alfred. Thanks for having me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Greetings to the very respected panel members you have. Senior Tebu, I eat cow too. So,
excellent.
Right, perfect. Okay.
Very good. We'll share it together.
Right, indeed. We'll have a feast. But as I indicated, I have a surprise for you this morning as well. So I'll keep that under wraps as we go on. But I'll start off with you, Vincent, that's a 4 on this. But in fact, before that, let's look at the judges who sat on this matter and those who ruled in favor of the plaintiff and those who dissented. The Chief Justice, who was the president of this panel, Geto Tokono, ruled in favor of the plaintiff. Justice Mariama Owusu also ruled in favor of the plaintiff, as we see there, and also Justice Kwame Esiedu, who actually wrote this opinion of the justices who ruled in favor of the plaintiff in the majority. Justice Yao Dako Asare, in fact, it was Justice Yao Dako Asare who actually wrote this judgment, and then also for and on behalf of those who ruled in favor of the plaintiff, and Justice Enes Gaiwu, who was actually a subject of conversation when the Speaker's application was thrown out. Those who dissented, Justice Amadou Tanko and Justice Avril Lovelace Johnson, they dissented on the matter of jurisdiction. And if you look at on the matter of jurisdiction, I'm going to put that on the screen as well, but on the benefit of those who are listening to us right now on the radio. On the matter of jurisdiction, when the Speaker's application was ruled upon and thrown out, according to the 5 justices who sat on that matter, the writ filed by the majority leader was seeking an interpretation of Article 97(1) G and H, which was purely a matter of law and not whether a member of parliament was validly elected. That even if the case was filed at the High Court and interpretation of Article 97(1) G and H became a bone of contention, the High Court, by Article 132 of the 1992 Constitution, was required to stay proceedings and refer the issue of constitutional interpretation to the Supreme Court for determination. It is therefore misinformation, in their view, and misapprehension of law for the applicant to represent that Supreme Court has no jurisdiction to give interpretation on a provision of the Constitution which has attracted different meanings. So, Counsel, on this matter of jurisdiction, recall when it came up, we had a conversation. The Supreme Court, in this 109-page ruling, if you look at page 33, in fact, it was from page 12 all the way to page 36 are about addressing the matter of jurisdiction, essentially making the point that to the extent that there was disagreement on the matter of interpretation of Article 97, 1G and H, then the Supreme Court's jurisdiction was properly invoked. Why do you say otherwise?
Well,
I'll start off with Lama Tibemu.
Oh, okay.
Good one.
The jurisdiction, what do I say?
Yes.
Look, the matter of jurisdiction, let's just repeat this. I keep telling you that, or making the submission that in law, if the Supreme Court wants to find jurisdiction, it's easy to find. In the same way, if they want to decline, it's easy to do. So let's set a bit of the parameters so that we understand. I always say that let's remember, just like, and it's good, we can relate to the Bible. You see the way the provision in Micah, the one about tithes, you see how some pastors will interpret it to mean that you must bring 10% of your income every month to the church. Other pastors will say no, it just means that give what you can give. That's the same way the Constitution is. We have so many rules, okay? There's the ideal one, but you will never get lawyers to agree. So what we call ideal, purposive interpretation, even that one, a court can set out to say I'm doing purposive interpretation. And yet, what is actually happening is not purposive. So all I'm saying is that our idiosyncrasies, ideological positions, prejudices, everything of a judge is also reflected in judgments. You may not see, the judge will not say, my ideological view is this, or my philosophical view is this, so it's affecting the judgment. No, but they all do. So the jurisdiction matter, I always said it from day one that bottom line is that it's the Supreme Court that has the power. So if they want to find jurisdiction, they'll say, yes, there's jurisdiction. Because, ask Bobby, we go there, sometimes you couch your case thinking that, yes, you've created a jurisdictional matter for them. They'll look at it and say, no, they don't think so. That's their opinion. So what I'm saying is that it's not a straight jacket. It's fluid. It's subject to everybody's interpretation. So the fact that they say they have jurisdiction, I don't believe so. Look, what we are struggling, so I don't agree with the Supreme Court that there's jurisdiction.
Why is that?
But I agree that because we belong to different schools of thought, they have the right to what? Disagree, and they can hold a different opinion. And that's why I say that. So in all of this, the real understanding of what is going on is you look at how they are appointed. This is the very reason for which they are appointed. A president looks at the various judges and he will choose those who think like him, those who support his viewpoints, those who reason like him. Then we say what? The same philosophies, the same jurisprudential viewpoints, the same ideologies. That's what they do. So he's choosing people who reflect his thought. So don't be surprised decisions like this go in the favor of the ruling government. And it's not only MPP that does it. NDC too. Some judges here, when you are in office, you choose your friends to go to the Supreme Court. Then you say, oh no, it's the ideology, it's the jurisprudence. Yes, you want similarity in jurisprudence. That's what we mean by friendship. So this matter, all I'm saying is that there is no right or wrong answer. No, there is no right or wrong answer. But ultimately, it's all about the one who has the power. And the one who has the power is the Supreme Court. And they say they see a jurisdictional issue. I don't see it. It's a ruse. Listen, the reason I disagree is that the purposive interpretation that you hear the lead opinion, Justice Asare Daku himself invokes. Yes. One of the cardinal principles of the purposive interpretation rule, the starting point is that take the words, okay, give them their ordinary meaning in the context. He's quoted it all. Then as he goes on and on and on, he's not staying faithful to it. He goes to bring the history, okay, selective history. So you see, it's not complete. He chooses the ones that reinforce his opinion. Okay, so it's not like a strict science, though law is a science, but that's a social science. It's not like the this physical sciences where you say, okay, 1 molecule of hydrogen plus 2 molecules of oxygen will give you what? Water. No, the law one though we say it's a science, it's not as strictly fiscal science as the one I just described, right? So
Yes.
their viewpoints and all those things are written in because he says he's doing purposive interpretation. Now, when you read the words are very clear. Who has asked you to go and resort to history and the rest? No, read the first words. They are very, very clear. And so in interpretation, we have the principle that, listen, there's a distinction between undesirable law and then unconstitutional law. If you are saying that what we are faced with is that the court is saying the law is undesirable, but be careful, the same Supreme Court, you hear Kluje, Datiba, and even from the 1979, you hear Fatal versus Minister of Interior. They make it clear. The fact that law is undesirable doesn't mean you should strike it down. No, if it's very clear, it's clear. Too many Supreme Court decisions. When the law is clear, just leave it at that. Don't go and resort to esoteric meanings, because as Justice Asari Daku wrote, then he bound himself, entangled himself in so many things that were unnecessary. Look, let's go here. What is difficult about if he was elected a member of parliament as an independent candidate and joins a political party? What is difficult about this?
That's Article 97.1.
Yeah, 97.1.
G.
Yes, J. No, that's H. I'm talking about Isiama. What is difficult about this? Then you go to our history, and some people, Dr. Gladys Unsowa, who, there were people who, in the term of parliament, they switched, and then nothing happened. Meanwhile, the same Supreme Court has held that when an unconstitutionality goes on for even hundreds of years, it doesn't ripen into constitutionality. Justice Asari goes on to say, no, if we allow this thing to stand, then it means that the constituents will not get a representative for the last 3 months. That's wrong, and that the Constitution intended that at all times we should have a representative. That's wrong, but within they say, excellent, yeah, you are talking about the same Supreme Court, June 2020, they saw it coming, that the decision they gave in the Valentine, Jache, Sametepe, that Sal, Central Kofi, Akpafu, Lolobi, and Lipe will not get an MP. They didn't make an exception. Jachi Kwesin. So many examples. But you see, so Justice Asari goes on to say that the Constitution intended that we should have a representative, the constituent should have a rep all the time. But that's not true. The same 97, okay, makes provision for what? Resignation. So is he saying that when a member wants to even resign within the last 90 days because the Constitution wants the constituents to have an MP throughout, that member cannot resign? It's provided in 97 here that the person can resign.
Yes.
If the person absents himself for more than 15 sittings, he can be removed, okay? And then if he's found guilty of contempt of parliament, these are all there. And so
the reference you make is what is on the screen there. So on the HS you make reference to Andrew Siama's case, if the member was elected as an independent candidate and subsequently joins a political party.
Yes.
That's
thank you.
97H. In the reasoning of the Supreme Court, such decisions, the consequences of it, to the extent that the person's decision is of a matter of a subsequent election, an election that is in the future and not of the now, the consequences of it cannot be suffered in the parliament of the moment. And that if the person's decision affects the 9th parliament, then the consequences of it should then be applied in the 9th parliament. But if you look at the speaker's reasoning, and Council Martin Pebu, the speaker says, if the consequence of violating Article 97 is of futuristic, implication, then there will be really no punitive measure, because if Andre Siama eventually wins the 2024 election in Formina, he's going to serve with the NPP. He wouldn't at the time violated this 97.
Thank you.
And if Cynthia Morrison wins as an independent candidate, he wouldn't obviously, or she wouldn't also be serving as an MPP MP. So is it the case that now when they win as independent candidate, they cannot then decide to do business with the MPP?
Thank you. Okay, so let me continue. So, good. Look at what Justice Aridaku wrote. He says that for the majority, he says the framers of the Constitution intended constituents to have uninterrupted representation throughout the parliamentary term, and any interpretation that undermines continuous constituent representation during a parliament's term is constitutionally untenable. This is false. That's not what the framers intended. 97 itself has provided that MPs can resign and MP can be what? Expelled from parliament, etc. So this statement, this cannot be correct. That's what I said. You see, when the situation is not ripe and you force it, you have to explain. Then that's what the young people now in this court, you go explain tire, right? Yes, look at it. He said the framers intended that they should have uninterrupted representation throughout. It's not true. It's not borne out by 97. It's not borne out. Yes, you would, but there are exceptions. If you fall foul of the law, you'll be removed. And so if you are removed, and Article 11, what do you call it, 2, Clause 5 or 6, says that 90 days to an election, if there is a vacancy, no further what? By-election. So this is not true. That's why I said that what we have here is a situation where you've given power to somebody, and that's the person's prerogative. That's all. But as for explaining and trying to justify, I'm clear that I'm not persuaded. Look, so it says that, look at the 112 I mentioned, 6. It says, notwithstanding clause 5 of this article, a by-election shall not be held within 3 months before the holding of a general election. So will you strike this 1-2 down? The top, you see the explanation, the judgment was labored. The majority judgment, it was labored, was struggling. I said, no. So the thing is very clear. So let me land on this point. It's very clear. And so you see why then lawyers have raised arguments that this decision takes us back to the powers of the Chief Justice to empanel. Because doesn't it strike you that the senior-most judges were left out? You see, Mr. Ansasari made that argument the last time. Bafu Boni, who is the most senior, yes, he is left out. Puaman, next, left out. But is that the only case? Is that the only case? What are you saying? What are you saying? You see, I say,
land, because yes. I need to.
You see it? So HPC Prepe wrote an article right in the 90s. He saw it coming that, hey, these powers of the Chief Justice to empanel, it can lead to an overthrow of the Constitution, just like the way Chachuchikata is put it. Yes, because the Chief Justice will sit there and look and see that those who think otherwise, okay, I will not empanel you. And so we'll select, devil selection, select those that will say yes. Yes, that's right. This is an analysis. You look and choose the ones that will go in your line. Do you have a problem with it? As if we're, but
this ruling is
as if are you saying that Puana is not senior to even Chief Justice herself? Bafu Boni is not senior to Chief Justice. That's what we call. So you choose the ones that will follow your line.
What basis?
But
so, Council.
And you want us to go on and on,
so,
right?
So that's the point is, this ruling sought to address a particular situation.
Yes.
Has it corrected this error so-called, or it has set a precedence for more errors to be committed?
No, it hasn't. It hasn't corrected the error so-called. It's just that this is the use of force. And I see it as use of force. I have power. And this is what I've said. And because the Constitution says we should obey, then that must be law. But I don't think it's been corrected because you are going to give more problems. Look, when you read through the majority decision, as you're talking, look at Justice Aridaku. He just says filing nomination to contest in a future election is futuristic, right?
Yes.
He hasn't addressed the point that before you can file nomination to contest in MPP, you must first join the party. As if is that not true? So did the Siama join your party before he filed or not? Did he join? Did the Siama join MPP? Did he join? This one simple. I'm asking you to answer. No, I'm just asking for clarification.
No, you go ahead. I'll respond to you.
No, I'm not saying that disagree.
I've written everything.
No. I've not asked you to disagree. I'm just asking that. Can you confirm that Isiama joined MPP in order to be able to file on the ticket of MPP?
You go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead.
Counsel, you make your point.
You from way back. Today, just give me small information.
But
you don't want
some of the words that you are using is surprising.
So because of that, you will not answer.
Counsel, you conclude on your point. I will still ask the question.
This law. This law. So you see, the thing is, and that brings me to the other point. I'm sure the Supreme Court themselves, if they had seen that Ghana is changed and that will be scrutinizing the decision and the whole process itself, maybe they wouldn't have taken that line. Because now we are left with, you know that, like they say, with every dark cloud, there's a silver lining. You see that the decision has now given us an opportunity to drive home our point that Article 144, appointment of Supreme Court judges and other judges of the Superior Courts, it's no longer fit for purpose because it has made our constitution buy one, get one free. No separation of powers. The judiciary is under the executive. That's why our constitution is. The judiciary is under the executive. Ekufuado's word is law, right? So, you know, they've done this and it's given us opportunity to state clearly that so we will not accept such a constitution because it's inimical to our development. You don't have judicial independence. So the bottom line is that this thing, what we are saying is that what the Supreme Court is written, that is their opinion. And like we always say, you won't find two lawyers agreeing. But because we've agreed under the Constitution, that is the Supreme Court that has the final word on the meaning of the Constitution, to that extent we will agree. But we can also analyze for them to see that, no, the decision is not good for our democracy. Because you see, as they go on, then he tries to attack even the whip system. They want to liberate the MPs, etc. But there is Act 300, where, look, under Act 300, as you go, I'll read it. The party, can discipline a member, right, of their party, and write to Parliament that, listen, we've expelled this person from our party, so remove him. Meanwhile, you've not struck down Act 300, and then you're saying so many things indirectly, saying Act 300 is not law or what? I just don't understand this decision there. No.
While you pull Act 300, I'll bring in lawyer Sefa now because it's also a private legal practitioner. I left that out in the introduction, but this is what the dissenting judges said, and I'd like us to put Justice Lovelace Johnson's position on the matter of jurisdiction. Says, quote, "It is my opinion that in matters relating to the vacation or otherwise of a parliamentary seat, a plaintiff has no choice in the matter. They must go to the High Court. The jurisdiction of the High Court is exclusive." That's Justice Lovelace Johnson. And she goes on to make reference to some other cases. And this is what the other dissenting judge also said, Justice of the Supreme Court also said. Justice Tanko Amadou says, and I quote, "I do not hasten to proclaim that I have apprehended with despair the majority's conclusion in this suit, but I state with utmost deference to the Honorable Chief Justice and the rest of my brethren in the majority that not only do I fundamentally disagree with their conclusion, I, with all due respect, also find the decision an aberration to the established and accepted judicial position of this court, which with profound respect, I hope in no distant future, the resultant usurpation of the constitutional prerogative of the High Court incidental to the majority decision will be reversed." In fact, he's hoping that this decision as reached on this matter, the majority decision will be reversed soon. "The conclusion I have arrived at should in no way be construed as suggesting that the Supreme Court is not the appropriate forum vested with jurisdiction to interpret and or enforce the Constitution in appropriate circumstances. The point which I unequivocally emphasize is that it is the same Constitution, 1992, which vested exclusive power in the Supreme Court in matters of interpretation and enforcement of its provisions, which also designed the mechanism for this court to assume jurisdiction. Thus, although this court has a general jurisdiction to interpret and enforce provisions of the Constitution, there are situations, such as in the instant case, where the procedure, and he makes emphasis on the procedure adopted in invoking the Supreme Court's interpretive and enforcement jurisdiction, has deprived the court of the power to exercise that jurisdiction. In fact, he goes on to say a number of things, but I'll pause here because, as far, what exactly was the original relief that Alexander Afenyo-Markin went to the Supreme Court seeking? Because I recall that there was an injunction that was filed, right? Even before the Speaker delivered his decision, correct? Right?
Yes. Yes.
Did you amend that particular earlier that's application?
Well,
before the Supreme Court?
It needs not amended before.
Why is that?
Before the Supreme Court could have assumed jurisdiction to have dealt with the matter. But let me state that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And that Constitution is very clear when it comes to interpretative powers that is given to certain courts. I.e., the Supreme Court, based on the combined effect of Article 2 and 130, has the interpretative powers to deal with provisions of the 1992 Constitution. Mm-hmm. In the case of Emmanuel Cole versus the AG, the Supreme Court had the occasion to establish that when it comes to issues of interpretation, the Supreme Court has jurisdiction. When it comes to issues of enforcement, the Supreme Court also has jurisdiction. And the Supreme Court also has jurisdiction to be able to deal with both, that is, interpretation and enforcement at the same time, i.e., they are disjunctive. Number two, there are instances where the Supreme Court will assume jurisdiction to deal with matters of interpretation. And that has been stated in the 1980 case of ex parte Akusa. In that case, the Supreme Court has the occasion to state that where there are real and genuine issues bordering on interpretation, there are certain instances or there are certain condition precedents that will have to be satisfied. And Asaridaku had the occasion to reiterate this in its judgment. Now, it says that, and I read, where the words of the provision are imprecise or unclear or ambiguous. This is ex parte Akusa in 1980 case. B, where the rival meanings have been placed by the litigant on the words of any provision of the Constitution. And it goes on and goes on and goes on. This reinforces the combined effects of Article 2 and 130. That any time there is an interpretation issue bordering on the 1992 Constitution, it is the Supreme Court that has exclusive jurisdiction. The Honorable Afenyo-Markin went to court to invoke the exclusive jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to interpret Article 97. Reading from the dissenting opinions of Madam Lovelace, that is JSC Lovelace, that this should be the sole prerogative of the High Court to deal with such a matter because to her, it is not an interpretation issue.
Yes.
But mind you, even if the High Court was the one dealing with this matter, it will at a point still refer any interpretational issue to the Supreme Court, because the High Court will not be able to have the jurisdiction to interpret the meaning of what Article 97 is.
And it is on that matter that Justice Amadou Tanko raises that the procedure that was employed raises a fundamental issue. In fact, it makes the intervention and the entertainment of this case by the Supreme Court null and void.
No.
Because the point you make that even if it goes to the High Court and there's an interpretation matter that comes up, then it's referred to the Supreme Court.
No, I disagree.
Dealt with and
I disagree,
come back
because
to the High Court.
there are two cases that I'll cite to you. Michael Nyufa versus Jachi Kwesin. And also the case of Ejechim Ampofo versus the Attorney General. Ejechim Ampofo and versus Attorney General was where the plaintiff went to the Supreme Court to enforce fundamental human rights of persons, which his own fundamental human right was not affected anyway. But the Supreme Court felt that, yes, it is of public interest. And for that matter, we will assume jurisdiction to deal with that matter. It does not need to go to the High Court for the High Court to refer the matter back to the Supreme Court for interpretation before it will also refer it back for the High Court to go and deal with the matter. Michael Nyufa versus Jachi Kwesin, the Supreme Court had the occasion to say that you cannot question the interpretative powers of the Supreme Court just on the basis that it has concurrent jurisdiction in the same course of action that is before the court. I.e., the High Court also has some jurisdiction to deal with the matter because the course of action before the Supreme Court is that of issues that borders on fundamental human rights. But if the Supreme Court has concurrent jurisdiction with the High Court on an issue, as far as interpretation of an issue is concerned, the Supreme Court can assume jurisdiction as far as interpretation is concerned and deal with the matter. It is in the same vein that Afenyo Markin went to court to seek for the interpretative powers, or if you like, to invoke the interpretative powers of the Supreme Court to interpret what Article 97 is. Now, when you go to Article 97, and we have to read that as a whole, and that is why I disagree with my senior colleague, Martin Pebu. Reading Article 97 as a whole, nowhere does Article 97 suggest, when you read from Article 97B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. The G and H was the matter that was in contention, or the two provisions that were in contention. But if you read B, C, D, F, reading that as a whole, nowhere does it suggest that these provisions were dealing with issues of the future. No, because if you read a B, it says that is a C. If he is absent, that is, a member of parliament shall vacate his seat in parliament. If he is absent without the permission in writing of the speaker and he is unable to offer a reasonable explanation to the parliamentary committee on privileges from 15 sittings of a meeting of parliament during any period that parliament has been summoned to meet and continues to meet. This is current status, current issues. It does not have anything to do with future. B, if he is elected as a Speaker of Parliament, you vacate your seat. It has nothing to do with the future. That is why I'm saying that we have to read the whole Article 97 as a whole. If you also look at the D, it says that a member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in Parliament if he is expelled from Parliament after having been found guilty of contempt of Parliament by a committee of Parliament. It has nothing to do with future. It has everything to do with the current status of the member of Parliament. If you also read the C, it says that if any circumstance, that is, a member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in Parliament, if in any circumstances arises such that if he were not a member of Parliament would cause him to be disqualified or ineligible for election under Article 94 of this same Constitution. It has nothing to do with the future. It has everything to do with the current status. The F, where I'll end, is if he resigns from office as a member of parliament by writing under his hand address to the speaker. This also has nothing to do with the future, but it has everything to do with the current. And so it beats my imagination for anybody to put any interpretation on F and on G and H that there are issues that is bordering on an intention or a declaration to be part of the next parliament. Alfred, mind you,
no,
our election is a process. It's a process because you have to start from somewhere.
No,
okay?
wait.
You have to start from somewhere. Alfred, let me finish. Our election is a process. You have to start from somewhere. Today, it is within my right as a Ghanaian, if I'm 21 years of age, to join a parliament. But I'll have to start from somewhere because the parliament is going to start on the 7th of January. And the processes are that it's either I join a political party or I go independent. Now, if in my estimation, I decide to join the next parliament, which is the 9th parliament, which is within my fundamental human rights, to join that parliament, it presupposes that I should trigger a process before I can join that parliament. Now, if I'm a member of this current parliament, for example, now a member of parliament for Old Tafo constituency, and I decide that after the social contract that I signed with my people, for me to stay in parliament for 4 years, within the next 4 years, I do not want to, as it were, do business with my party, which is the New Patriotic Party. It does not deny me of my fundamental human rights to join the next parliament, just on the basis that I have decided to do business with another political party. Because the decision, any other constitution, like the New Patriotic Party constitution, is subservient to the constitution of the Republic of Ghana. So the constitution of the Republic of Ghana is supreme, and Article 11 will tell you and will exhibit to you that when it comes to sources of law, the constitution is the supreme law of the land. Any other law that is seen to be inconsistent with this constitution of the Republic, per Article 1 and Article 2, is inconsistent. To the extent of the inconsistency shall be declared as null and void.
And this includes your party, the MPP.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying, that the fact that there has been an unconstitutionality, and that is why I agree with Martin Pebu, that a non-constitutional act, even if it is repeated 100 times, cannot be constitutional.
So the reason why I asked you this question is, you say that... No.
I'm saying that he's agreed with us. He says everything is this parliament, not future.
Yeah, that's the point I'm coming to.
I'm listening.
To the extent that you say that the decision to contest in the future parliament as a sitting member of parliament, in your view, there is nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. You, as a political party, there is a reason why you put point 9 in your constitution about the forfeiture of membership in there. It was to check a situation, is it not?
Yes.
And this is the situation that has arisen.
Yes.
That a member of your party has decided to go independent. And upon taking that singular decision, your party's constitution says the person has forfeited his membership automatically. That's automatically. Is that to say that your provision in your constitution is unconstitutional?
Please,
and you have to amend and take it out?
This is legality. This is issues that borders on legality. I have suggested to you
No,
that the constitution of the New Patriotic Party is subservient to the constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
So you're saying that your party's constitution, that provision in there is unconstitutional?
Please, I'm just suggesting to you, I'm just talking to you about law. I'm just telling you that anything that is found in the MPP constitution, if there is a provision in that MPP constitution which is at variance with any provision of the 1992 constitution, to that extent, it is unconstitutional.
I see.
So the point I'm making is that the Supreme Court had the occasion to establish what cross-carpeting is. Okay? So, cross-carpeting, in the mind of the Supreme Court, is having every issue to deal with your current status. If you decide that me today, as a member of Parliament for Otafo, and I decide to join another political party in the same parliament, that is what we call cross-carpeting.
So what essentially...
You cannot use the same meaning to affect any member of parliament who have decided to do business with another political party in a future government, so in a future parliament.
Then what is the consequential effect of violating Article 97 if the consequence applies in the outcome of your future decision? What's the consequence?
I'm saying that I have a social contract with my people. That social contract is for me to stay in parliament for 4 years.
Okay.
Okay? Now, within that 4 years, if I decide to change my allegiance to the party that brought me to parliament, that is problematic. That is cross-carpeting, if I decide to do so. But mind you, it is within my rights as a Ghanaian, if I'm more than 21 years, to be in parliament or to contest to be in parliament. So hold on.
I don't get you.
To be in parliament. I'm saying that you cannot use a party's constitution to deny me my right under the 1992 constitution to join the next parliament just on the basis that I have declared an intention to do business with another political party. So if my intention was to join another political party within the same parliament where I have signed a social contract with my people, that I'm coming to parliament on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party, but I am changing or I am variating that social contract that I had with the people, then that is a problem.
So you're okay with it, that after these persons have declared their intention to contest independent candidates, the court says they will stay in this parliament, they will sit with you as a cohort in your strategic meetings. You will not take them off your WhatsApp pages. They are part of every meeting that you conduct. You are okay with it?
The Supreme Court had the occasion to, as it were, rule that whatever conclusions that came by with respect to Professor Michael Quay is unconstitutional. There were not any anticipation as to whether the New Patriotic Party, in writing that letter that they sent to Professor Michael Quay, will repeat itself the way it has been repeated today. But the point I'm trying to make...
You didn't anticipate that it will come up again?
See, the point I'm trying to suggest to you is that, see, the fact that it happened previously, and the New Patriotic Party was okay with that, doesn't make it constitutional, because it is the law that we are talking about. The law is that if a person decides to join another political party in future, it does not negate or affect my current status in parliament. And that is what the Supreme Court came by. That was the conclusion of the Supreme Court.
That's what, and you see.
So you may disagree.
You've gone round, and I asked you a specific question. Right. You've gone round and round of it, and you are not answering that specific question that I asked you. If I decide that I'm contesting as an independent candidate in a future election, I'm part of your current parliament.
Yes.
And you are saying that as a caucus, you are okay.
So the answer is that can you leave that for the party to decide? Let's talk about what the constitution says. But you are just saying that the party's constitution
forget about that. That should not be. You are saying that the party's constitution. You are saying the party's constitution is now.
Don't meddle in the minor. It is irrelevant. It is irrelevant.
It is very, very relevant.
These people are more than 18 years. They can think for themselves, and they have decided to do business with the New Patriotic Party once they stay in parliament. They are only declaring an intention that in future I'm not going to do business with the New Patriotic Party. And why are you so much interested in our caucus platform?
No, wait.
The Constitution of the Republic is what is important.
That is at variance. That decision that's at variance with your party's constitution.
And I'm saying that the party's constitution is subservient to the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
That provision in your constitution, a forfeiture of membership. A member of the party who stands as an independent candidate. Wait. A member of the party who stands as an independent candidate against the officially elected member of the party, or who joins or declares his or her support for another political party or for an independent candidate, when the party has sponsored a candidate in a general or by-election, automatically forfeits his or her membership. You're saying that this provision is unconstitutional in your party's constitution.
As compared to the 1992 constitution. Please, that's the point I said.
Well, you've made your point.
So what's the point? What's the point?
So this is where you see, Mr. George, what is the import of this particular ruling to the extent that political parties now, if per what that's this SFY is saying, is anything to go by, have been rendered powerless in taking any disciplinary measure against any of your party MPs who were sponsored by the parties on the ticket of the party to get into parliament if they take a decision to contest as independent candidates in subsequent elections.
Let me say good morning once again to our viewers and to my co-panelists. When you read the dissenting judgments of Lovelace GSC and Amadou Tanko GSC, you see the pains that these members of the bench are in, because it's obvious to them and obvious to anybody who applies common sense to the ruling to realize that there is a battle of wits between common sense and the ruling that has been given by the majority grouping in this case. Like, there is a complete battle between common sense and logic and their ruling. The majority decision in this case, and you see, because even the judges led by the Chief Justice in the majority realize the lack of common sense and the lack of legal logic in their ruling, they only deal with one, relief one, that's a sort. They are silent on relief 2, 3, and 4. And so this judgment is hollow and empty and of no consequence to the Parliament of Ghana. I mean, the Speaker should not waste his time with this. He should just put it in the dustbin. It has absolutely no value. And so when I see Afenyo and his men running around that they've secured a victory, you ask yourself, a victory in what? You went to court asking the courts to make a declaration and issue a directive or an order on Mr. Speaker, on the pronouncements Mr. Speaker has made. Despite, for want of a better phrase, unreasoned judgment and logic espoused in the majority judgment, they realize that that will be pushing the boundaries too far. And so they stay away from making any ruling on Mr. Speaker. So there is no ruling on Mr. Speaker. If you read the whole thing, there is no directive to Mr. Speaker. Absolutely no directive to Mr. Speaker.
Yes, because they say they can't do that. So if you want declaration of the seats, go to the High Court, page 14.
Is that not why I say common sense has eluded the judges who have made this particular... When you read this judgment, you see that common sense has completely eluded that judgment. You know why? And that's the point Justice Amadou Tanko makes. That look, the Constitution is clear. Read Article 99(1). And every article of the Constitution has a subheading. It says determination of membership. You said the Constitution is supreme. Article 99(1) says the High Court shall have jurisdiction to hear and determine any question whether A person has been validly elected as a member of Parliament or the seat of a member has become vacant. I mean, common sense, there's a difference between High Court and Supreme Court. If the Chief Justice was not seeking to pander to the wishes of political powers in the executive,
allow that for the High Court to pronounce on it. From your own, why didn't the Speaker?
Sam George.
Why didn't the Speaker?
Sam George, make your point. Make your point.
You see, the Speaker has not made any determination on vacancy. Because again, don't forget that when you go to 97(1), it doesn't impose a responsibility on the Speaker. It imposes a responsibility on the Member of Parliament to vacate their seat. It does not say may, it says shall. A Member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in Parliament, and goes on in G for F. It says if he resigns, okay, that's G. If he leaves the party of which he was a member at the time of his election to parliament to join another party or seek to remain in parliament as an independent member. And I'm glad Eko, in his submission, established the fact that Article 97 is dealing with the current parliament and not a future parliament. So it clearly means that Eko's explanation here today renders useless and completely illogical the arguments that have been made by Afenyo Makin and Jogate in court. I mean, and this is why you must realize that understanding of the law is not necessarily your longevity at the bar. We must establish that because Eko is a much younger lawyer, but he's been able to read through and understand that 97 is not talking about future parliaments. 90. You stated it here. I have not said anything different from what you said. And Eko is spot on it. Is bull's eyes. Eko is bull's eye when he says 97 is talking about this parliament. The speaker's pronouncements have absolutely no consequence on the 9th parliament. They only have consequence on the 8th parliament. When it says you will vacate your seat, it is not talking about if you have no seat. None of us has a seat in the 9th parliament. Eko, you are sitting in a stronghold, so it's assumed that you will win, but you don't have a seat yet. Have you been sworn in? Do you have a seat in the 9th parliament? No, I don't have a seat in the 9th parliament yet. I'm hopeful to God that my people will return me to parliament and that God will grant me life to swear in on the 6th of January. Until that is done, I don't have a seat. So you cannot be telling me that the vacation of seats is relative to the next parliament. And that's why I'm saying that if the Lord Justices has applied even just logical common sense to what the Constitution says, we will not have this needless constitutional drama. Now, if it then means...
So the common sense you talk about is in the ruling, not on the persons, in the ruling.
It's about their ruling.
Okay.
I mean, I'm saying that there is no common sense in the ruling. When you subject this ruling to common sense, you see that they're having a fight. There's a fight between common sense and the logic espoused in the ruling. I'm not referring to the persons of the Lord Justices. Absolutely not. I'm referring to their reasoned judgment. And I'm saying that I do not see reason in their judgment. Good. Now, let's make the point that if a member of parliament, Eneko, you were voted for to this 8th parliament, not because you are handsome, or not because you are tall, but because you contested on the ticket of the NPP. If you had contested on the ticket of the NDC in Old Tafo, you would not be sitting in parliament. Let's call a spade a spade. Your people entered into a social contract with you. You are sitting in parliament not because you have freedom of association. You are sitting in parliament because there was an election. Your people old enough to be your grandfather and grandmother queued to vote for you, just like me. They voted on the basis of the representation I made and you made to them. I made a representation to the people of Ningo Pram Pram that I'm contesting on the ticket of the NDC. You made a representation to the people of Old Tafo that you are standing on the ticket of the NDC. It is that social contract we entered into with our constituents that gave us a seat in parliament. We sit in parliament not for ourselves, but in trust for the people we represent. Now, a decision of you or me or any other one of the 275 to alter that social contract means that you no longer have legitimacy.
Alter in terms of current or future?
Current.
But their intention is...
Wait. No. The question of vacation of seats is not about future, it's about current. The speakers, and the speaker's ruling. Listen, Echo. The speaker's pronouncements do not say that Cynthia Mamle Morrison, Kojo Asante, Andre Siama, and Peter Kwacheaka cannot sit in the 9th parliament. The speaker has no such power because he cannot even be vacating something that does not exist. Do you understand me? The 9th parliament does not exist. The only thing he can enforce vacation of, which 97 of the framework of the Constitution intended in 97-1, is the current parliament. Today, wait, Echo.
So why did the Speaker of Parliament assume that?
No, the High Court would only do that when there is a dispute. Listen, this is what
there was a dispute.
So if there was a dispute, why didn't you go to the High Court? Why did you go to the Supreme Court?
Because it also borders on interpretation.
Absolutely not. So you see, no. When you read the rules of practice, no, Echo, the rules of practice, and you see,
I have my
this is why, Echo, please. This is why people say the Chief Justice, and I'm singling out the Chief Justice, because she is the one who empanels, and she is the one who has led us into this constitutional crisis. She spoke about a constitutional crisis. The Chief Justice is becoming detrimental to our democracy.
Why is that?
Listen, the Chief Justice herself is aware that the Supreme Court on several occasions has refused to hear matters where their original jurisdiction has been invoked when the Constitution is clear. Article 33 of the Constitution and Article 99(1) of the Constitution are clear when it has to do with fundamental human rights. Your first point, of course, should be the High Court. When it has to do with determination of membership or a vacancy, it's the High Court.
It has exceptions.
There's no exception here.
There are exceptions.
There's no exception here.
No. There's a point.
We will go to Article 130. Wait. Alfred, hold on. Article 131 says, subject to the jurisdiction of the High Court, in the enforcement of the fundamental human rights and freedoms as provided in Article 33, the Supreme Court shall have exclusive original jurisdiction in matters relating to the enforcement or interpretation of this Constitution. Good. All matters arising as to whether an enactment was made in excess of the powers conferred on Parliament or any other authority. Now, where have wait. No, listen. Article 131 has existed.
Why is his argument?
That because of Article 131, it's an exemption to Article 33. Listen.
Of course, it's an exemption to Article 33.
Listen. Then in that instance, in that instance, what it would then mean is that the Supreme Court would then have jurisdiction on every matter.
That's not true.
Because every matter that goes before any court in this land are based on the Constitution or an error of the Constitution. So then it means that every lawyer would then wake up and say that, look, I don't want to go to the High Court. I don't want to go to a court of appeal. I'm invoking the original jurisdiction because this is a fundamental human rights issue. And so I'm going. That borders on absurdity. And that is what our Supreme Court, led by the Chief Justice, some members of the Supreme Court, are lending themselves to such legal absurdity. Because you see, it is legally absurd that our Supreme Court, our Chief Justice, would allow herself to be used in such a manner to bring the Supreme Court to a place where the Supreme Court is standing in direct conflict when it comes to original jurisdiction on matters of fundamental human rights and a determination of membership or vacancy of same that is explicitly spelled out in the Constitution as the prerogative of the High Court. In fact, it goes ahead to say that when there is an issue that borders on interpretation in the High Court, the case in the High Court will be stayed for that interpretation to go to the Supreme Court and come back to the High Court. Yes. Now, what you are seeing is a Supreme Court under the current Chief Justice that is overly overstepping its boundaries. First and foremost, seeking to get into the matters of Parliament, which is a closed book. And I expect, Mr. Speaker.
It does not happen now. I mean, that is.
I expect, Mr. Speaker.
They address that matter.
I am expecting, Mr. Speaker. I'm expecting, Mr. Speaker.
Read Article 125.
It
does nullify that closed book argument.
I have respect. I have respect for our viewers. I'm not going to be doing this with Echo. No.
Senior, I agree. Senior, let me see to you. It's fine. Go ahead.
Good. Thank you. Listen, the Chief Justice is overstepping her powers and is bordering on abuse of her powers under Article 296. She's being arbitrary and capricious and malicious in the use of her powers, usurping the powers of her own lower courts, the High Courts, and then seeking to tell Parliament what to do. And that's why I have said that if the Chief Justice thinks she's so vested with so much power, she should come and sit in Parliament, convene Parliament, and go ahead and conduct government business for them. But you see, the Chief Justice must know, like the Speaker said, that we do not respect the supremacy of the Supreme Court. We respect the supremacy of the Constitution. The Supreme Court has no supremacy over the Parliament of Ghana. And you see, it pains me that members of parliament are complicit in this rape of the powers of parliament, because today it serves their partisan parochial whims and caprices. And that members of parliament, Eko, you know, and Afenumaki knows, that look, to challenge a ruling or directive of Mr. Speaker, our standing orders give you a fantastic opportunity to come under a substantive motion. So today, you are telling me that every time any member is unhappy with a ruling of the Speaker,
which ruling
we will go away from our standing orders and run to our godmother sitting at the Supreme Court to give a ruling and say, look, then the Supreme Court should be ready to cite all members of parliament on the majority NDC side for contempt. You must be ready to cite 136 of us for contempt and cite Mr. Speaker for contempt. But let me serve notice already that I have summoned the head of the Association of Magistrates and Judges. What's his name again? He's one of the new judges that was approved recently by Parliament. You summoned
him for what?
I've cited him for contempt of Parliament because he held a press conference and told a blatant lie. Unbecoming that a member of Parliament, because he didn't mention my name, he says a member of Parliament led a mob to the Supreme Court seeking to invade the Supreme Court and heave invectives. He must come before Parliament, our Privileges Committee, and establish for us which member of Parliament carried out such action. Because I led a group of clergymen to the Supreme Court to demand action of the Chief Justice, who has been sleeping on the LGBTQ case. The Chief Justice has become a cog in the wheel of justice. The same Chief Justice. A matter involving Parliament and the usurpation of the powers of Parliament. Under Article 106, the Chief Justice has now become a cog in the wheel of justice, standing against the wheels of justice grinding, and is playing ball to help the president evade service. I mean, look, it is a shame, it's an aberration, and like Justice Amadou Tanko stated, I hope that in the nearest future, a properly constituted Supreme Court would vacate this ruling, which is a stain on Ghana's legal jurisprudence. Look, any judge worth his salt or any law student anywhere in the world who picks this majority ruling would have a good laugh at the Supreme Court of Ghana. And it's a shame that such a court that has such distinguished personality, and that's the point, in one minute, that's the point, that's 10 seconds, that's the point Martin was making, that you've got fantastic lawyers, Justice Pwamang, Justice Bafo-Boni, Yoni Kolendi. There's a reason why such reasoned and detailed and seasoned legal minds were kept away from this. So they will not, look, for any consideration, bring themselves down to this unfortunate ruling.
When Sam says that the Supreme Court was silent on all other reliefs apart from one.
Yes,
that is
we will get back into that.
That is why I wanted you to comment.
Let me just also indicate
that the Supreme Court realized that it would strip them naked.
The microphones are off. And let me just also remind you that we are live as well on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook. Now, what's the status of Cynthia Morrison and Kojo Asante now?
She's campaigning against
wait. Are they still MPs?
I want to comment on one or two things that our brother said.
If you're not answering that, I asked you a specific question. If you're not answering that, let me acknowledge the presence of If you're not answering that specific question that I asked you, then I'm going to move on, because it was a follow-up question to an issue that Sam George raised.
I don't even know the question. I don't even know the question. I'm just saying.
The question is, Cynthia and Kojo, are they MPP candidates today? Are they not campaigning against your candidate?
I'm suggesting to you.
That's what? That they are not campaigning against your candidate?
No. Sam George, what is their status now?
They have declared an intention.
Are they MPP?
No, it's not an intention. They have acted out their intention.
They have declared an intention.
No, you see, you shouldn't allow Vincent to do this. Vincent, you are a lawyer.
The 9th Parliament.
No, you are talking about menstrual.
Thank you.
Have they done the actus? Has the act not been for something to be found?
Thank you.
No,
Thank you very
no,
much.
the act and the intention has been actualized by them filing nomination and by them campaigning.
I just needed an answer. You have just given the verdict.
No, they have not shown an intention.
Gentlemen,
they have acted
your
out
microphones are off. Your microphones are off. Thank you. Now, we're also live on a number of radio stations across the country, and I indicated to you that I have a very, very important intervention and a surprise for you as well, because we needed to get to elevate this conversation in getting other minds as well on it. I've been joined on Zoom by Justice William Atuguba, retired, a former Supreme Court Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Justice William Atuguba, good morning to you, sir, and thank you so much for joining us here on Keypoint.
Morning.
And it's always good to have you. And I know that you have seen this recent ruling in this 109-page document as released by the Justices of the Supreme Court within the week on Thursday. One of the issues that has become a matter of concern is the matter of jurisdiction. The 5 justices who ruled in favor of the plaintiff, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, is saying that even if the case was filed at the High Court and the interpretation of Article 97(1) G and H became a bone of contention, the High Court by Article 130 was required to stay proceedings and refer the issue to the Supreme Court. But in the contention of Justice Amadou Tanko, this procedure is not that which was employed in this case. And as a result of sidestepping this procedure of this High Court's jurisdiction being invoked on this case, but rather going directly to the Supreme Court, it negates the Supreme Court's jurisdiction on this particular case. I want to find out your thoughts on this matter of jurisdiction, whether it has been settled, really, by the recent ruling.
Thank you. This question of jurisdiction ought to have been regarded as settled long ago if the court was minded to follow precedent. Well, the court is bound by its previous decisions. It can depart from them for good reason. But there came a time this provision about stare decisis has virtually been negated. You'll find in the latter days, can take it from, let's say, 2012, thereabouts going. You find there's complete and frequent violation of that rule of stare decisis. The question about the jurisdiction in this matter, I mean, could not have been a serious problem if this stare decisis were observed. First of all, even let's ask a very common sense question. When parliamentary results are declared and people are contending that they rather should have been elected, the results were not fair, where do they go? Is that to the High Court? And who has ever said that that's the wrong forum? common sense. And this common sense is supported by the provisions of the Constitution. Otherwise, how could it have been happening? Unchallenged. But suddenly, beginning from, I think, the Beer Bell case, second day, Amado and Beer Bell versus second day. No, he rather even went a second day. Here was a case that concerned the validity of the election of the MP for Boku Central, I think. The challenge to his election went to the High Court. It was thrown out while it was out of time. They went to the Court of Appeal. They failed there. And then a new action was brought to the Supreme Court. This same situation arose, I think, in 1997 or so, in the case of Yeboah versus J.H. Mensah. I was on that panel. Let's briefly state the facts. J.H. Mensah, I think it was from Sunyani or so. He didn't contest that particular election from where he hailed from. That's Sunyani. He went to another place, and he did not reside there for a continuous period or an aggregate of 5 years, as required by the Constitution. And actually, if the plaintiffs had taken that matter up in the High Court within the 21 days, he would have been thrown out of Parliament. Because he clearly could not satisfy. But they waited until that period had expired. And now, and that's where I want always to be forthright. This man turned out to be a problem to the government of the day in Parliament as a minority leader. And I think some felt that should be a way to get him out. They then found that the High Court gate was closed, so they sought to circumvent that by coming to the Supreme Court. I was on the panel. And the issue. Now, interestingly enough, it was this our same president who was counsel for J.H. Mensah. And he contended that the Supreme Court had no jurisdiction. It was a parliamentary matter. Now, we're confronted with the previous decision of Wedima versus Awana Williams. That was decided in 1969 by judges one dares not to disagree with. But that is beside the point. When this matter came before me, I must confess, I was suspicious. Why is it that after all this time they are coming with this matter? Is it because the man is a pain in somebody's flesh? So I said to myself, if I look at this matter and I find that, there's no jurisdiction, I'll throw the case out. That was my approach. So I read that Wedima versus Awana Williams.
Yes.
And Azu Crab, who read the judgment, who wrote it, said that on the issue of parliamentary election, the Supreme Court and the High Court had concurrent jurisdiction. So I had to consider this man over and over and over as a pure legal question, not question of politics as we are doing today. And I found that notwithstanding their distinguished judicial status, I couldn't agree with them that when the Constitution says in Article 130 that subject to the High Court jurisdiction of fundamental human rights, the Supreme Court shall have exclusive jurisdiction with regard to interpretation and enforcement. It can at the same time, how can something be exclusive and be concurrent at the same time? So when I got to that idea, I said, no, I will not accept their reason. And that found me to rule in favor of J.H. Mensah. We're 5 on the panel, only 1 dissented. We took time, wrote lengthy judgment and analyzed. When BABL case came, the lead judgment didn't, as far as I can recall, didn't deal with that, didn't try to see whether we're right in departing from our Williams and Gwedima. Nothing. Just said that, each time that the person continued to sit in the Supreme Court, in the Parliament, was a new course of action. Now, I don't see this in it, because there's one provision governing the status of the elected person. And in my opinion, that makes it an action in rem. It relates to the status of the elected person, not an action in person. So that accrual of course of action keeps on. And even if it is, the express limitation period is there. So, we departed from our Williams and clearly established that in matters of parliamentary tenure, election, validity of elections, and so forth, the High Court is the proper forum.
The High Court is the proper forum?
Yes. For the determination of the validity of a parliamentary election. And of course, by extension, that's just one item of that jurisdiction. If there are others, also like vacation, it simply follows common sense, common logic, that the same thing will apply.
So in that sense, the Supreme Court shouldn't have even entertained this particular case at all?
At all. Now let me emphasize. A jurisdiction to interpret and to enforce under Article 130 is described as an original jurisdiction. I'm saying that in a situation like this, they don't have original jurisdiction. What they have is a jurisdiction of reference. The subject matter belongs to the High Court. And the same Article 132 makes it clear that in a situation like that, they have only reference jurisdiction. So I don't see, I don't know. That's why I'm emphasizing. And I think that at the heart of all this pretentious discussion going on, there's no true legality involved. It's just politics, that honorable type. All we are doing is the paramountcy of political partisanship. Party partisanship. That is what is controlling this country. If that is not addressed, we are just wasting our time. True law no longer will apply, where the basis of anything in this country is political, politically driven. That is the menace. I I agree with Martin Kwebu's observations along these lines. That is a fundamental matter. Unless it's arrested, this menace, this vice will continue to fester, and constitutionalism will be subverted. Paid lip service to people suffer. In other words, we are not entitled to benefit from the constitutional order put in place for this country. That is the true situation. That's the true evil to be addressed.
When you make reference to the fact that clearly the Supreme Court shouldn't have entertained this case at all, in the recent ruling of the 5 who ruled in favor of the plaintiff, they argue that although the High Court had jurisdiction with regard to whether a seat is vacant or not in Parliament, what was before them was purely a question of law regarding the true interpretation of 97(1) GNH and not factual disputes regarding seat vacation in Parliament.
Sorry to say, that's superficial reasoning.
That's superficial reasoning.
Yes. It is not, but that issue has been addressed by Article 132. Now, where it arises in a matter belonging to another court, the Supreme Court only comes in when an interpretation or enforcement issue arises and is referred to the Supreme Court. That is the only time they can come in. So you don't, take 132 about the, is it not dealing specifically with that question of law that they are talking of and how it should be, brought to the Supreme Court?
Indeed, 132 says where an issue that relates to a matter or question referred to in clause 1 of this article arises in any proceedings in the court other than the Supreme Court, the court shall stay the proceedings and refer the question of law involved to the Supreme Court for determination, and the court in which the question arose shall dispose of the case in accordance with the decision of the Supreme Court.
Yes, that is the constitutional order. And let me say this, those days that law was, there was fidelity to the law, and even today is reflected in their judgment, the majority judgment. Jurisdiction is a fundamental matter. So the conditions upon which your jurisdiction arises, if they are not there, you don't have the jurisdiction. And that is it. That this matter is directed to the High Court. However patent the constitutional issue that may arise there, you don't have original jurisdiction, you have jurisdiction of reference. That is it. Is that what they exercised? That's not what they exercised. They purported to exercise original jurisdiction, whereas in this kind of situation, it is only reference jurisdiction. It's quite clear from the same provisions of 130.
So as the Supreme Court has always held consistently, a point of jurisdiction, when taken and successfully upheld, should foreclose any consideration of the merits of any case.
Completely. You don't have jurisdiction, how do you touch the merits? And even in the majority, there is clearly and plenarily stated therein, and I agree with that. Even they are saying as is solidly laid down that as for jurisdiction is so fundamental that even if the parties don't raise it, the court itself suo motu ex debito justitia.
So essentially, like there will be no foundation upon which the merits can stand.
At all. How can you put something of Macquarie and USC? Mosi and Bajina? Macquarie and USC, I think it's something, but as for Mose and Bajina, I think it's 1963, volume 1, Ghana Law Report, page 634 or so. Supreme Court. Akufo-Addo ASP wrote that unanimous judgment. So, I mean, you don't say that the same issue would have come. The thing is, when do you have jurisdiction over the issue in a matter that is consigned to a lower court? That is it. No, you don't substitute desiderata for, actuality of jurisdiction. Supreme Court.
Well, Justice, I want to make the point and say that to the extent that this matter of jurisdiction is a problem, Justice Amadou says that he finds the decision of the majority as an aberration to the established and accepted judicial position of the Supreme Court, which, with profound respect, he says he hopes in no distant future the resultant usurpation of the constitutional prerogative of the High Court incidental to the majority decision will be reversed. You agree with that?
Well, yes, but the thing is, as I've told you, in the course of time, the Supreme Court was not faithful to the constitutional prescription of stare decisis. So you find Biebel and Sakande going off tangent, entertaining a matter that should have been commenced in the High Court, and then some followed. It's very interesting. If you read that Biebel case, look, the Doche and another justice, that's interesting, eh? They disagreed with the majority decision on the grounds that I'm canvassing. The same grounds. That's very interesting. I think when in human life, it's important to apply realism rather than add things. That's very significant that happened. The majority decision didn't even discuss, if I remember well. I'm yet to go back to my books. It's 6 years since I've retired, but I think I'm recollecting.
Indeed.
They did not examine Awana Williams and Vedima. They did not examine Yeboah and Mensah and so forth, and try to demonstrate why those decisions should not bind them. That is, from a certain time, the Supreme Court, after that, you started sliding down judiciary. I'm telling you. You find that this stare decisis was not observed. You find a panel taking a decision one way, then another case comes. Either the same panel or a good number of those who decided will take a contrary stand, and then back and, this wasn't happening before. That's why I'm saying something fundamentally has gone wrong. That is what has to be redressed. If we are to get back on track and run this country properly and not politically and myopically. Now,
sir, and you think that politics is a cause of this, that the judiciary continuously being drawn into politics? Because that was a concern by many, that this case may have just overly exposed the judiciary to the politics of it, sir.
Yes, you said?
Sorry, I lost you briefly then. You are talking about the problem that we have, the problem that we are faced with now. And yes, the concern that was raised when this matter started was that this was going to open up the judiciary for the politics of this particular issue. And do you see that as a problem here?
It's a problem. That's a realistic problem. Now I'll demonstrate it. Look even at the empanelment. People has referred to all those. I mean, for what reason will you bring the younger justices to handle such a weighty matter to the exclusion of the seniors? What reason? I mean, this reason, sir. Then they brought in these two others, but I mean, what were they going to do? In fact, even legally, I don't see whatever was left for them to decide on the substance, because in rejecting the application to set aside their injunction, or their directive, they had ruled that they had jurisdiction. They had already decided that they had jurisdiction. The speaker had no jurisdiction over the matter. It was so. What was left actually for determination? You know? And so, and these same 5 who ruled that there was jurisdiction, they were still there, and only 2 came, and the 5 went the way they went, predictably.
So it was predictable?
Oh, sure. Are you not in this? Don't you follow the horizon of judicial functioning in the Supreme Court? Are you surprised? Tell me, honestly, were you surprised?
The way that the 5 justices went on this particular case was predictable.
And let me tell you, why wasn't it even, let us even go by pretentious legal theory. They're not the same person who had ruled on the the application to set aside their processes, that they had jurisdiction. And so, I mean, if the same people are to pronounce again on the same matter,
okay.
Don't you see
Yes, indeed. It was the 5 who sat on the speaker's application. Yeah. Yes. So the dissenting 2 were only added on the substantive case.
Yes. And what could 2 do against 5? Look, as I've said some time ago, this question of political poison in the judicial system didn't start today, but it has gotten to, its peak under this current administration. It has gotten to its peak. And that is the real virus, constitutional virus, to be redressed. You find the lawyers coming to the studios, they are not coming there really to talk about lawyers, except a few of them. Some like Martin Kwebo, I don't think is politically minded from his presentations. But some just come, their duty is to uphold their party's line. They're not interested in the correct law, but their party position must prevail. That's what's happening. And so, that's the fundamental thing to otherwise this kind of thing will continue under the guise of legality and constitutionalism, under the guise.
What's the danger that we're faced with this situation, as you have so passionately spoken about, if what you have just espoused continues?
What is the way forward?
Yes. In fact, the danger we are confronted with the politicization of the judicial process, as you put it there. What is the danger that we are faced with if this continues? That's what I was asking.
Oh, I mean, it will be continuing in the rule of people, rule of politics, not of law. Clearly, That's the rule of politics. Political partisanship. That's what is obtaining. And if it's not arrested, no matter which party comes, we'll continue suffering. That's why I'm so concerned.
And continuously...
Pardon?
Yes, you were making a point. Sorry. You went silent a bit. Yes. But you can go ahead.
Oh, you have jurisdiction over the matter to ask the question.
Indeed, I have original jurisdiction on this program, not a reference jurisdiction. Indeed, so called the
yes,
exclusive jurisdiction. Indeed,
not concurrent.
Not at all.
Not at all. I'm scandalized to see in the reference of some of the majority judgments that on an issue where the Supreme Court
it's unfortunate. We're having
and the High Court have concurrent jurisdiction on the matter. The concurrent jurisdiction of kind of concurrence. There's no concurrence there. It says it's exclusive, and I cannot reason by any process to arrive at the fact that when they say something is exclusive, it can also be capable of concurrence with another person. But my mind cannot have.
And the other justification by the majority Justice Asiodu wrote that it must be placed on record here and now that there is no provision in the Constitution that when a person perceives that a provision of the Constitution requires the interpretation or the enforcement of this court, or that when it is perceived that a legislation has been made in excess of the powers conferred on Parliament, that person shall first have to institute a suit in the High Court before the High Court could refer the matter to the Supreme Court. Such a stand will be very, in his view, circuitous indeed. Any such condition imposed on Ghanaians is, in his view, with the greatest respect, not sanctioned by the Constitution.
Oh, with all due respect to him, you know, the legal legs is standing on for this kind of denunciation. Is anybody seriously saying that where a matter, a cause or matter, is within the original jurisdiction of another court and only referential jurisdiction is reserved to the Supreme Court can still purport to have original jurisdiction? And where is concurrence? I mean, the scenario he has even painted doesn't arise. Because you are bound to go there and then referentially come to a Supreme Court. And let me say this. Politics apart. Long ago, it's not today, Mekankai and the Republic, Asiama and so, look, long ago, there's from Awana Williams and Wedema, if a matter is not ambiguous, any court can apply the Constitution. In that case, interpretation doesn't arise. These days, and from the way things are going, can give the dog a bad name and hang it. Something can be crystal clear. Oh, it's not clear. I mean, these are the things. Now let me tell you, this situation has to be arrested seriously for constitutional governance and not political, partisanship functioning. That's not governance. It takes place. One, the mode of appointment of judges suffers from the virus of hepatitis infection. That's even gone cirrhosis.
The judge has become doctor.
Sir?
Why do you want to establish an independent judicial, and the president is the appointing. And even if you look at the appointment, he specifically has the power to nominate and appoint the Chief Justice, who is the head.
Sir, fortunately, we
want an institution to be independent,
yes.
And the head must be yours. Now, that's nonsense. That's, to use the old party expression, malice aforethought. The pain of the constitutional deterioration in this country. I said there has been massive constitutional deterioration.
Sir, I do appreciate your time and pouring out your heart on this matter.
Is it possible that
Justice William Atuguba, retired Justice of the Supreme Court. Thank you. Hold on. Justice, yes, he is actually still listening. We'll rectify the connection to him. But he's made some salient points in there. For example, please, this is why I bring you in, because you see, he raises he raises a fundamental question about hold on, gentlemen, Sam George, gentlemen, hold on. So, Professor Jampo, I'll bring you at this point on this matter that Sam George, you don't have the floor. You don't have the floor. Your microphone is off. Your microphones are off. Your microphones are off. Thank you. Now, Professor Jampo, I'll bring you on this point on the matter of governance and this issue that this ruling indeed brings forth, because it's not just a legal matter, it is also having governance and political implications as well. In fact, there was a fundamental question that was asked about what constitutes political affiliation, because in the ruling and the minds of the Supreme Court justices who ruled in favor of the plaintiff, they argue that for a seat to be vacated, the person has to move from one political party to the other, and not necessarily going as an independent candidate. Prof.
Well, thank you. I think after listening to Justice William Atuguba, I'm wondering whether I have anything useful to add. I think he's been fantastic in his delivery on this matter. He's a man that I have a lot of respect for. He cares about institutions and how institutions will have to function well to bring about good governance. And so I don't know what I have to say. In addition, he said all the issues, yes, there are serious issues with regards to the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in this matter. And then he's telling me and all of us that if that matter is not settled, then everything else that happens, afterwards, it's null and void. And so he's also raised issues with, there's another issue with an attempt to order, Parliament as to how it goes about its activities. There is an issue also raised with respect to the mode of appointing justices of the Supreme Court. And then he put it aptly that you cannot say that an institution should be independent and that its heads should be for you. It doesn't make sense. And if we have people with the mindset of statesmen and women running this country, they would endeavor to question and interrogate some of these things and change them. But it appears that all those people that we've so far had as leaders, many of them haven't had the mindset of statesmen and stateswomen. And so they have oftentimes pandered to the weaknesses of the system and also exploited the weaknesses of the system, you know, to their advantage. You're talking about empaneling of judges, you know, to sit on matters like this. A matter like this that has created a serious constitutional crisis. And you are asking for judges, you are looking for judges to sit on a matter, and you don't bring the experience once, and you are told that the Chief Justice has a constitutional mandate and he has the power to empanel and all.
Have you noticed that since Akufo-Addo took over, he has a beef with Bafuboni and sought to sideline him? This is the time to say everything.
For example,
let's make the point. Justice Bafuboni, if you like, ask sources. Akufo-Addo has consistently sidelined him since he took over, just because Bafuboni wrote against him in the 2012 petition. He didn't have a case. The voters went. Let's end that.
I was going to come to you.
Voters went and expressed their will. And you're saying that Bafuboni should rule for you that because the presiding officers did not sign, then we should annul votes. What law is that? Administrative inadequacies or inefficiencies cannot be used to nullify the wishes of the masses. And since then, since Akufo-Addo took over, he has consistently sidelined Bafuboni. Have you ever seen him inviting Bafuboni to the Jubilee House? Things that Bafuboni as a senior judge of Supreme Court should do? No. He never wants to see Bafuboni. I'm the one saying it. If you want, go and ask. You see.
Okay. I've said that.
No.
I'm just going to ask,
No.
Since he says you should say everything.
Yeah, we have to say everything. If not, this constitution will not understand why the Chief Justice
hold on. For example, is not allowing. Look, gentlemen.
I'm saying that the Chief
other than that, I will. Your microphones are off. Your microphones are off.
It's part of the reasons we must begin to interrogate.
And for example, if you can speak up, because our viewers cannot hear you clearly. Make your point.
Okay, so as for President Akufo-Addo, I've said I'm not going to talk about him again. It's checked out, so I'm not talking about him again. I mean, if you talk about...
For example,
we talk about him continuously. I mean, it's checked out and it amounts to romancing a stone. I'm not interested in romancing a stone. But so we're talking about paneling of justices, judges to sit on such important cases. And we are being told that, well, the constitutional right of the Chief Justice to be paneling, and so she can decide whoever she wants to sit on a case and all that. You see, rigid application and following of such constitutional requirements ushers people into a regime of robots. We should be able to think about the consequences, of our actions, especially when handling matters like this. Otherwise, then the trust, the public trust and confidence in the Supreme Court would continue to be decimated. And I am surprised and a bit worried that, as I've indicated earlier, the Supreme Court itself doesn't seem to be interested in how it is perceived, out there. Otherwise, in such an important matter that is creating a constitutional crisis, you would have looked for people. There are certain people who, when they preside over some of these cases, even if you don't agree with them, you would see wisdom in their pronouncement, in the way and manner they go about things, by virtue of the fact that they are experienced, they are more learned, they are more, they've been there for long. Okay, but if you bring people whose decision we can easily predict, and given what they have done in the past, then it becomes a bit problematic. So these are some of the preliminary issues that have been raised earlier, and I agree with them. But you see, the substantive matter that I wanted to address, it appears that Justice Atuguba is saying that if the matter about jurisdiction is not settled, then all other things that come up, becomes invalidated and all that. So yes, if indeed the Supreme Court didn't have the jurisdiction in this particular matter, was it that they were thinking that the High Court wouldn't have done a good job or what? I mean, so why the haste in going to usurp, the powers of the lower courts? I think that they should have allowed the lower courts to handle this matter. And more importantly, Alfred, you've heard me say severally that, you see, in this particular matter, the courts, in my view, were in the place to resolve the matter. I heard some judge saying that Parliament has its own standing orders as to how some of these things could have been addressed, and this would have brought about some peace. See, they're going to court and looking for adversarial means to address some of these matters will yield a certain benefit. But I can tell you that it rather has opened the gates for more problems in our governance system to be unearthed. Because yes, you may have won, you may have gotten the Supreme Court to decide in a particular way for you, predictably. But what are you going to do? Parliament is still not functioning, and government business must run. How are you going to ensure that the rest of government business go on? And I was that there will be discerning people, there will be matured people, there will be sober-minded people who would have thought about all these things before quickly rushing to the courts and asking them that they should use their adversarial processes to address this particular matter. And, well, we live to see. But I'm saying that those who are celebrating that they've gotten the cause to decide in a particular way, they have not won anything. Because now the real deal is going to be how Parliament is going to be responding. How about if they decide, the minority side decide that, well, we are also not going to be part of processes. How are you going to achieve that quorum to be able to make important decisions? And so I am a bit worried that we, in our quest to upset the balance of power that is expected to exist between the arms of government, have now created more problems, for ourselves and for our democracy. And I think that, look, if there are level-headed people in this country, and if leadership of political parties would be matured enough, we are not looking for youthful exuberance. We are looking for leadership. I've always said that, look, in the aftermath of the 2008 elections, I know leaders who led the processes behind the scenes to ensure the transfer of power from the outgoing government to the newly elected government. And I'm expecting such caliber of people to be at the forefront of leadership when it comes to Parliament. Okay, I think that there is too much boisterousness being shown on the floor of Parliament and in navigating these processes. It doesn't help. So that's why we are here, we are where we are. And then I also want to make the point that, you see, Alfred, you have listened to me right from the beginning of this matter up till now. Indeed. My position actually is in sync with the MPP's position. And I don't mind, espousing it again. My position is in sync with their position. It's just that because of their practice of unprincipled politics, sometimes they are annoying. You must first of all admit that Michael Okwe goofed. When Okwe erred in giving that judgment, and when it was in favor, you liked it. Why didn't you take it to court? And so you should first of all come out clearly to say that, Ghanaians, when we did that under Michael Okwe, it was wrong, and we are apologizing. And in this particular matter too, we think that the speaker, and then you can be building a certain consensus. You can be showing a certain principle. You can be telling all of us that you believe in what is right. You are doing principled politics. But during Okwe's time when he was wrong, you were happy and excited about that. The President Akufo-Addo himself was going about saying that he was not going to be working with a Siama. Okay, you liked it. Now another speaker does it, and then you take him to court, and you want us to all of a sudden pretend that we've forgotten what happened, in the past. And if you do that, you see, then you are annoying. And when Asifua was talking, I was expecting him. Like I said, I believe that a declaration of an intention to contest a future election should not invalidate one's membership of parliament and one's representative role in a current parliament. And if you recall, I gave the historical antecedent to it. You now are studying, or you just completed law. But before law, you've studied law, you are a lawyer. But you see, lawyers should know that every law that is passed would have something that made the law to be passed. And that was how come the last time I went through the historical antecedents of this particular law that that seeks to deal with cross-carpeting. I told you that long ago in 1958, Kwame Nkrumah had passed the Notorious Preventive Detention Act of 1958. And that act of parliament was simply to say that if you are a suspected political enemy of the regime, the law enables Kwame Nkrumah to throw you into jail for 5 years. You go into Nsawam and then come before your matter will be heard. And through this law, he was terrorizing so many political opponents. RR, Amponsa, and Co. He was terrorizing all of them. And through this law, people of the NPP, Northern People's Party, J. Brahma, and Co. Some of them, they had some of them, they are pastors, some of them, they are relatives, some of them, they are well-wishers, had to go and plead with them that given how Nkrumah is handling you, you must simply cross-carpet to be able to get your peace of mind. And through that, Nkrumah using that intimidatory tactics, got some of these people who were opposed to him to cross-carpet to support the CPP. And so the cross-carpeting took place in that parliament of the CPP. And it was through that Nkrumah got the majority of votes to be able to pass the Republican 1960 Republican promulgate that 1960 Republican Constitution. Okay, so the point is this: if you are in parliament today, your decision should to cross carpet. If you take it today, and so you are. I mean, we all know what were you saying when you were talking, because you are annoying. I couldn't supply you with that information. But you can bring Wayoseni's example. Wayoseni was a member of parliament, and in that same parliament, he moved to another political party, and then he signaled the speaker. His seat was declared vacant, and an election. So the decision to take a certain the decision to contest for a position, okay, on another party's ticket in a future election, it does not take note of this. The idea of cross-carpeting is to reduce the numbers of your opponents in parliament. Okay, so when Nkrumah encouraged or intimidated people to cross-carpet, he reduced, by 1960, he had reduced the MPP's, Northern People's Party's numbers significantly. Okay, but this idea that we are talking about, the issue that is currently confronting us, it is not reducing the MPP's numbers in parliament.
Yes.
They still have one, is it 136 or 137?
137.
136.
No, they used to sack Alan and Co. It's because now they see they are hot.
And that is why I allowed the lack of principled politics. I've received
Alan Chemanting and Bobia Samoa. No, it's the same principle. It's the same provision I use.
Now he's said. Hold on.
So now I apologize to them. So I apologize to them.
Sam, this is law. Sam, this is law.
Hold on,
but he's not a member of party.
Because hold on, he's answered that question.
So,
I mean,
rightly so, if and it is true, if a party's constitution is subservient to a national constitution, then the MPP owe medicine man Hobson Adoye, I call him medicine man. No, he didn't to Hobson Adoye, Alan Chemanting, Bwabia Samoa. You owe them an apology and great compensation because, well, I mean, you may disagree, but the point is this. if you say that they have automatically forfeited, okay, their membership of your party by virtue of the fact that they moved to another party, and today you are also offering a certain defense that goes contrary to the position of your party's constitution, then I think, in all fairness, if you are doing principled politics, see, our challenge is that we lack principles when it comes to our politics. So what we did yesterday that was wrong, and we supported. Today, if we want to vary it, then we look at other reasoning, and it doesn't help. So my position is simple. Yes, I agree with the issues that have been raised with the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in this matter.
Right.
But my position is that if somebody takes a decision today that in 10 years' time I will contest an election on another party's ticket, it should not invalidate the person's membership, of Parliament today. And when I'm saying say absolutely, when it's agreeing with you, say absolutely. But when we disagree to you, you are calling me names.
So you see, Prof, this, Prof,
I'm saying you generically.
For example, this matter obviously wouldn't have become an issue based on the stance that you espouse if the MPP itself didn't have this provision in their constitution, which Mr. Asifua says now that it is unconstitutional, and in fact they would have to even amend their constitution if the implication of the Supreme Court ruling is anything to go by, because it renders that provision on the forfeiture of their membership null and void of no effect because of the consequence of this particular ruling.
Well, it's okay. I mean, constitutions, there are the 1992 constitution says that if your law is in contravention with what the parent constitution, mother law of the country is, then we have to set yours aside. So he admitted, but he didn't have the courage and boldness to say that, look, maybe then our constitution, we should just set aside that provision. But the point is this: your constitution is your constitution. If the mother constitution of the country that is supposed to be upheld and is superior to your constitution says something otherwise, or different from your constitution, then we have to uphold what is in the national constitution. And you should be bold, sincere, and candid in admitting some of these things. But you see, like I said, we don't have principles in the conduct of our politics. So the very things that we said was good yesterday, today, if it is being done to us, we say it's not good. And rather than resorting to very conciliatory and a matured way of handling matters, we run to Supreme Court. And why do you run to Supreme Court? Because we know those who are there. You see, it is normal. Let me tell you, in advanced, because we know those who are there. In advanced democracies, Trump is in. He would appoint, people of that who believe in his ideology. People who see eye to eye with him. If there is a vacant position in the U.S. Supreme Court, he would appoint people he believes in, there. People who see eye to eye. So for me, it is not too much of a big deal that, look, Martin, tomorrow if I become a president and we share the same ideas on some issues, and I'm appointing a chief justice. But Martin, I know you agree with me, and so then I'll take you there. But you see, in those jurisdictions, the people who though may be in agreement with the appointing authority in terms of ideological persuasions, will still have the courage to look into the appointing authority's face and say, though ideologically we agree, but this one we think you are wrong. But in our part of the world, we appoint people who are expected to be at idem with us in terms of ideological persuasion. And these people are not able to assert themselves to say that, yes, even though you appointed me and I agree ideologically with you, this one you are wrong. They are not able to say that. And so they are always thankful to the appointing authorities in everything that they do. They are always behoving to the appointing authorities on everything that they do. And that's how come, in my view, in developing democracies, when we are appointing people into such higher positions of public trust, we should look at people who, apart from the fact that they may be agree with us, they would have the courage, the fortitude, the strength, and the ability to look into the faces of the appointing authorities and tell them, this one, you are wrong. This one, we don't agree with you. It's becoming one too many. When people are appointed, they are always behaving, they are always looking up to the appointing authority, even when they know that the appointing authority cannot even sack them. What is wrong with this?
But, Prof, you see, and staying on this matter, because let me conclude with Prof, because I'm still dwelling on the governance matter and then also the legal issues that you have dealt with. To the extent, because you make reference to the historical antecedents leading to this, the context and the mindset of the framers of the Constitution in putting Article 97 there was meant to check a situation.
Yeah.
And the Constitution, be a living document, obviously will go through some of these reforms. But for instance, in 1979, which I know there's Popular Front Party, Victor Usu's party, led the opposition in parliament against Ehela Liman at the time. Two principal members of Victor Usu's party, lawyer Kwekuba and also J.H. Usu Champong, if you recall, entered parliament on his party's ticket. But eventually, they later declared that they were no longer part of his party. Yet they remained in that parliament. They continued to do so until the 1981 coup. So the framers of the Constitution, having this and mindful of the events of 1979, Article 97(1)G and H maybe were introduced to address and prevent such mischief, is it not?
Well, I think, you see, if somebody violates or run afoul of a constitutional provision, we'll have to make sure that the rule is implemented. What the 1979 issue that you are referring to was a clear violation of the Constitution, and somebody should have taken the matter up. And you see, one of the challenges of developing democracies is that rules are not implemented. Even when people run afoul of the rules, sometimes we look at those who may have broken the rules and then we decide to let it slide. So the point is that what happened in 1979 was not good, and you do not expect that and that's how come what happened in during the time of Wayoseni was also was addressed. Okay, Wayoseni got to parliament on the ticket of a political party, and then within that same parliament, he said that I'm no longer a member of this party, and that was how an action was taken to make sure that a by-election was held. Okay, to address that situation. So my view on this matter, fortunately or unfortunately, agrees. And I speak based on conviction. I don't care about if it agrees or disagrees with anybody, but purely based on what I've researched and what I know, the reason why the idea of putting in place legislation to deal with cross-carpeting was to ensure that whilst you are in parliament, you don't move to another party within that same parliament. It was never aimed at addressing a future ambition or intention. Me and Kweku Azar, we agree on this. And so, right from the word go, I knew that the Supreme Court was going to rule in a manner that is in sync with my position. But the challenge I have with the Supreme Court is that, you see, the predictability. Let me say, if we talk about strengthening institutions of state, we simply says that there must always be rules to regulate how things are done. Number two, the rules of the game must always be well known. Number three, the rules must be enforced. Number four, the rules must be internalized. Number five, the rules must be predictable. Okay, if you say the rules must be predictable, what we are saying is that we should be able to predict what would happen to you when you run afoul of the rule. That's what we mean by the rules should be predictable. Now, in talking about the rules being predictable and then in talking about the rules being predictable in relation to the functioning of the Supreme Court, yes, it is good that we are able to predict the Supreme Court, but the way a manner we predict the Supreme Court must be in the area that we can always be predictive with some certainty that the Supreme Court would rule purely based on competence. The Supreme Court will rule and it will not throw consistency to the dogs. The Supreme Court will rule and then the judgment will be seen as fair even if we disagree. But it appears that now we can predict the Supreme Court that look, they will rule in a certain way and then they will do so in a manner that is pushed or driven by partisan politics, and it is not the best. So people can predict. Oh, as for these people, now that the matter is going there, by virtue of sheer partisan politics, we can predict that they would go this line, and that is not the kind of predictability we are talking about when we are talking about when we argue for the central argument of the institutional school of thought that says that rules should be predictable. Okay. It shouldn't be like that. We should only be able to predict that, look, the Supreme Court would act fairly. We should be able to predict that the Supreme Court would act in a manner that is consistent with its earlier position. Okay, you are saying that we should not under any circumstance entertain any move that would ensure that people are not represented. You are saying it. And the justice you are talking about was articulating this brazenly, and I'm saying that you are inconsistent and you are not principled because you know that others have not been given representation for close to 4 years, and you ruled in a manner in this judge question matter. You ruled in a manner that denied momentarily, temporarily representation of some people, and yet you are espousing principles and judgment that goes contrary to that thing that the courts had done previously, and so you are not consistent. Okay. And it is worrying. And so I agree with many of the things that Justice Atuba said, and it's important that we staff the courts with people who have statesmen and stateswomen mentality.
I'll go for a quick break. When I'm back, we'll conclude on this matter. There's an issue as well that we're going to deal with. Stay with us here on Key Point, also live on 3FM 92.7. We'll be back shortly.
I'm a Ghanaian, and I love luxury accredited faith, and I love democracy.
December 7th, Ghana is voting.
Only peace. Peace, I give it to you all.
I love Ghana.
Peaceful election before, during, and after.
One Ghana.
Peace. Peace to everybody.
One Ghana. Ghana Bakumpe.
This message brought to you from the Luxury Accredited Faith.
Champion.
Under the MPP, we have arrested the rapid depreciation of the city.
A nose-diving currency.
Why are you running?
Which has rather arrested the person who said he would arrest. He had arrested it.
I understand.
The dollar has rather arrested him. And so we're looking for him. We can't find him. I asked the IGP if he had the key so that we could find where our Vice President was, and he said he doesn't have it.
I understand.
I'm still amazed by the stuff that comes out of your mouth.
Vote John Dramani Mahama for president. Trustworthy, honest, and reliable. Vote for change. Choose the umbrella. Vote John Dramani Mahama and the NDC.
A home is never complete.
I live at Angloga and I had my basic education at Way, a town in the Volta region of Ghana. When I was at JHS, it wasn't easy for me when it comes to my financial aspect because my mom is a seamstress and as well as a trader, and my dad engages in farming activities. But God being so good, the government of Ghana brought up this free SHS policy. So I'm so happy that the government have brought up this policy that is making me also to have access to secondary education. One day I would like to become like the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. That is, I want to become an economist. He is my role model because I believe he has been one of the best economists ever in the world.
Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Bawumia, #1 on the ballot.
The rendered useless due to the continuous depreciation of the cedi and extremely high cost of living in the country. Now, look at me. The fruits of my toil and sweat have all gone down the drain because of bad leadership. What to eat with my children is even a struggle. God, help me and the many who share in my pain. Let the wickedness of the wicked come to an end. Change must come.
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
Friday, 22nd November. Get ready to party like never before. An old school night you won't forget. It's the Onia Throwback Party, bringing you the best of hip life and high life. Live band pumping out the classics. Cocktail corner to keep the drinks flowing. Barbecue and small chops to refuel the body. And live performances from the legends themselves. Kofinti, KK Fosu, Aketeche, Tiny, Joe Frazier. Where? Happening live at the Bayview Village Atomic Roundabout from 8 p.m. For tickets or table reservations, call 0243-868184 or dial *713*14# to book or pick it up at the gate for a cool 50 Ghana cedis. So get your tickets, call your friends, and let's relive the best of the old school at the Onia Throwback Party. See you on Friday, 22nd November at Bayview. The Onia Throwback Party is brought to you by Obuasi Bitters,
Shaltox Lozenges,
Darling Lemon Drink,
Darling XYZ Wine.
Season, don't just shop. Save big with our Mega 60% discount at Danube Home. Shop in-store to grab the best deals of the season, only for a limited time. Visit to your nearest Danube Home showroom now.
Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Bawumia, #1 on the ballot.
Welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279. We're on a number of radio stations across the country. A number of your messages, I'll read them out. And as indicated, if you're just joining us, Professor Ramso Jampo, Professor of Political Sciences here, Sam George, as a member of Parliament for the Ningo Prapram constituency, and then also Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner. And then also Vincent, as a former member of Parliament for the Otafu constituency, is a private legal practitioner, is a deputy minister in charge of the Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development. And there. Now, this one here says that, Alfred, I can tell you the MPP as a party in their closets and hearts of hearts are not happy about this ruling because essentially it takes away their powers from the political parties to discipline their members of parliament if they take decisions that to the party goes at variance with their interest. Another one here from Nana Ekwia sending us a message from Oyibi, says, good morning. So I want to find out what the intent of the framers of the MPP constitution was in putting in that provision that Vincent Assefuah says this morning that it's indeed unconstitutional because of the Supreme Court ruling today. I bet that the MPP constitution framers in their minds anticipated such incidents and put Article 9, I'm sure you're referring to the point 9 in their constitution, as a disciplinary measure. 3.9 as a disciplinary measure and not one that was meant to take away the matter of representation. In fact, thank you. This one here says, good morning, Alfred. We are where we are because of extreme partisan ship. Long time when this parliament got hanged, great brains, including Dr. Rashid Rahman, had called on MPs, particularly the MPP, to be decorous. So you say, thank you very much. This one here also says, kindly find out if he's surprised that the Supreme Court did not make pronouncement on the other relief sought by Afenyo-Markin. I'm sure this was a question that you wanted asked Justice William Atuguba. In the Child Rights International versus the CRI versus the AG matter, we asked that the Supreme Court interpret and enforce, and they said we should go to the High Court. If in Afenyo-Markin and the Speaker, the determination of vacancy is clearly conferred on the High Court, but the Supreme Court interpreted and even enforced, thereby sidestepping the High Court. Thank you, Mr. Apia. This one here says, good morning. In November 2023, the MPP sacked members of its party who supported Alan Chemanting. The MPP, in the statement signed by its General Secretary, Justin Kodia Frimpong, noted that Article 39I of their constitution stated that a member of the party who stands as an independent candidate against the officially elected member of the party, or who joins or declares his or her support, it goes on and on, automatically forfeits their membership. Question is, was this wrong? If it's wrong, does it mean the General Secretary and the party, by their statement they issued, acted unconstitutionally? Well, the answer is there for you. This one here from Papa Bishu also says, Alfred, you see how Prof. Jampo summarized the governance this morning of President Kufuor, and to Vincent as a first assertion, rolling out the dialysis treatment, he has heard the opinion of the CEO of Konfanoche Hospital in Kumasi. You're asking if he has heard that opinion. He says our country is temporarily very sick and needs healing. This one here says that, why is Vincent Asifwa insulting the intelligence of Ghanaians? I'm sure you're talking about that matter of inflation. Okay. This one here says, good morning. And to your team, Mohammed Salaga. Our problem is this excessive, dishonest party superiority partisanship. He says, ask Honorable Asifwa that is context and institutional culture and principles not important for a house like Parliament? For God's sake, Parliament is a representation of over 33 million people for the governance of a nation and must operate on unique rules that will make it fit for purpose. You say, thank you very much for your message. And I acknowledge the 3,621 of your messages that have come through. Thank you very much. Council, Martin Kwebo, no, there was a quick response to a question that was sent in the message. Yes, quick one.
The Supreme Court made it clear at page 14 of the judgment that they are doing only interpretation, okay? And so that anybody after this interpretation who wants to have those seats declared should go to the High Court. Let's repeat. So the Supreme Court is saying that this judgment, the majority, okay, it's only an interpretation. They are not in the business of declaring vacant seats. Vacant seats is for the High Court.
So
under Article 99.
That pending Dafiamekpo case at the High Court,
yes,
this ruling doesn't affect it.
That's the right forum. Dafiamekpo is the right forum to have those seats vacated. If you want to vacate a seat and you go to the Supreme Court, you'll be thrown out. So they are very clear. That's how come they said they are not declaring any seats vacant. They've just declared that what the Speaker did is wrong. Now, if you actually want them to say that this seat, okay, should be declared vacant, go to the High Court. That's the law, right? Now, let's also come to this point briefly. Prof, I appreciate the historical antecedents and everything. By an interpretation, when we talk about the intention, when you hear lawyers say intention of the lawmaker, the intention simply means what the lawmaker has captured in the black letter of the law. So I get it that the core of cross-carpeting or crossing carpet, I didn't know there was cross-carpeting. We were used to crossing carpet. That now they say there's also the version cross-carpeting. You're right. I'm a political scientist by training, right? So I appreciate that that's the core one. but it also covers beyond. So if we want to limit it to only the one you're talking about, that in Parliament, fiscally crossing, then let's limit it. Otherwise, you see, the Speaker is the most experienced parliamentarian from 1992. He's seen it, and he's saying that it doesn't make sense. Before you can become a parliamentary candidate of a party, you go and join that party. And so there's a break in allegiance. Now, you're saying that, look at Mamle Morrison, etc. They've only kept them because MPP doesn't have the numbers. Otherwise, you think MPP is happy that, let's say, they go to have their strategy meetings, and then Mamle Morrison is sitting there. When they see her as a mole...
Vincent, as a that's a minimal issue which no,
it's not minimal. That's why under Act 300, the Parliament Act, is the political parties that have control over their members. Once you break allegiance, they send you out.
Okay.
Once you break allegiance, they send you out. So what the Supreme Court was needlessly engaged in is rewriting the Constitution. No, don't rewrite when the words are very clear. The purposive interpretation approach says that when the words are clear, just give them their meaning. Please, when a law is undesirable, you amend. We all agree now that it's time to review the Constitution. So we'll simply add it. If the wishes of the people is that we should limit it to only actually cross-carpeting from one side of the aisle to the other, sure. But Speaker Babin's ruling is that allegiance is very, 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 very important. And also, let's note that in contract, there's what we call laws in restraint of trade.
Yes.
Simply, the aspect I'm interested in here is that, assuming Mr. Okanse is a host of this program, your contract of employment can provide that if you resign today, tomorrow you cannot go and join Samson Ladi and on Joy FM so that you be two hosts of the program. No. Under the common law, it's allowed that your contract will restrict you that you cannot immediately go. But rather, they can put in there that you sit at home for 6 months. Of course, they'll compensate you for that. But you have to make sure that you don't immediately go away with trade secrets and everything from here. It's law. So when the Constitution says that don't join this different party and seek to remain, there is also reason for it. There are these issues of secrets, etc. So let's not just say that, oh, the only purpose of Article 97, Clause 1, J and H is that when you fiscally cross. No, you become dangerous.
So it's not a trivial issue at all.
Yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Safa, on this matter, because when I asked that question earlier, said this is one that you would treat as a trivial issue because you would rather leave that to be determined by the leadership of the party, to the extent that if you have these persons who not just express an intention, because we have the notice of poll that has captured not just an intention, but a reality that they are going to contest as independent candidates in their respective constituencies. No, let's put up the notice of polls on the screen. Yes. No, I'm going to a point. Against the elected and sponsored candidate of your party.
To join the next parliament.
No, yes. I mean, that's stated.
So add it.
You say that to the extent that they have their intentions impacting the next parliament, it's okay for them to remain in your fold and attend all your strategy meetings and so on. It's okay for you as a political party. Now, take a look at this. This is not just an intention. It is a confirmation of their intentions by the Electoral Commission. And this is it. Let's look at the Sohum constituency. The Sohum constituency has Frank Esiedu Bekoin, Protozwa, as the sponsored NPP candidate. Ernest Ofori Dangbe, Ernestina, I beg your pardon. Let's go to the Sohum constituency. The Sohum constituency. Let's flip to the Sohum constituency. And the Sohum constituency has Protozwa as the NPP candidate for the Sohum constituency. Then you also have now, as advertised, the Prince Ado of the NDC, Emmanuel Dede Wiafe as an independent candidate, and then Kojo Asante as well, who is the incumbent MP on the ticket of the MPP, contesting as an independent candidate. That is a notice of poll by the Electoral Commission. Then Agona West constituency, Christopher Arthur of the NPP, that's a sponsored candidate, and Nestina Oforidangme of the NDC, and Cynthia Mamle Morrison, who is an independent candidate in this election against the sponsored candidate of the party. But she's serving as the incumbent in this 8th parliament. Then you have Amenfi Central. Let's flip to Amenfi Central. That's the Amenfi Central has Albert Redu Akun, Peter Yaukwachiaka, and now there's Joanna Jankujo. Let's flip to the next one. That's it. And then Carl Mark Ahin, also an independent candidate. So it is not just an intention now, Josepha. That's what you see there.
Let me help you.
No. Let's
Let me defer to just a second.
Prof.
What do you want to say?
He said he wants to defer to you. As a first today, I'm on our side. You see, I'm saying that in Nkrumah, using the notorious Preventive Detention Act, sought to reduce the numerical strength of the opposing parties, you know, in that parliament, okay, by forcing them to cross carpet, okay. And I'm saying that in the case of J. Brahma, his Catholic bishop had to go to Nkrumah to go and beg that please we want to come and join you so that you stop worrying us, okay. And my question is, so the idea of cross carpeting must always be judged when it weakens the numerical strength of political parties in the current parliament. What has happened? I'm asking myself, how does what has happened? How does it weaken the numerical strength of the NPP? It doesn't. If they are counting their numbers right now, even though Cynthia Morrison is going for independent, today, if there is a decision to be taken on the floor of parliament, Cynthia Morrison adds to the numerical strength of the MPP. Doesn't. So I think this is what
they left her because they don't have the numbers. When they had the numbers, Isiama didn't they quickly ask that remove Isiama. Okay. So you are going to lead to this selective application of the constitution. Not consistency. That is why you left out.
Yes. How am I saying on this? I hope you come quickly. I have a lot to say about what Justice Atuguba said. But before I come there, let me quickly take this issue off. With the issue of the notice of poll, what is the reasoning behind a notice of poll? The reasoning behind a notice of poll is to show that these candidates would want to contest and be part of the next parliament. I don't see why or how a notice of poll should be enough justification to show that my current status as a member of parliament has been affected.
Allegiance.
And not that of the future parliament.
Allegiance.
So the point I'm making is that notice of poll is not enough.
Don't you join a
to
party
say that
before
to say
you get
that
notice of
I have
poll?
left. I have left.
Don't you join a party before you get the notice of poll?
The party that I was joining when I had a social contract. Secondly, Alfred, you allowed Justice Atuguba to use derogatory words.
What is derogatory?
The Supreme Court justices.
What do you mean? Don't worry. What do you mean?
To even attack them. They are using the court as a political platform.
Was it?
Hold on. Of course, it's not analysis.
No.
Can I have?
You are using words as derogatory and attack. He analyzed a situation about the state of affairs with the Supreme Court.
Did he
now
use
you are
words
saying
like,
that no.
Did you use words like the Supreme Court has been used as a platform for politics?
No.
Can I finish? Let me finish. Please give me 2 minutes. Let me finish. Justice Atuguba's comment lacked so much principle.
In what sense?
In the sense that, let me bring you to some of his decisions. In the case of Federation of Youth Association of Ghana versus Public Universities of Ghana and others, 2010. That is 2010, when he was a member of the Supreme Court judges. He had the occasion to comment, or if you like, he supported the majority decision, the decision that was read by Adinyira JSC. In that case, Adinyira JSC, which Atuguba was presiding, which he supported and was part of that majority decision. espouse what concurrent jurisdiction is. And when we talk about concurrent jurisdiction, we are talking about a jurisdiction that can be had by one other court and another. In this instance, the Supreme Court and the High Court, concurrent jurisdiction. And this is what Justice Atuguba had to say. My lords, although the jurisdiction of this honorable court to interpret provisions of the 1992 Constitution is exclusive and resides jealously only with the court, the debate has raged whether, relative to enforcement of provisions under the Chapter 5 of the Constitution, this honorable court has concurrent jurisdiction with the High Court. This is a JSC. Now, when
but
he
made reference to that particular case,
yeah,
didn't
so
he? You heard him.
Yes, so I'm coming to quote what he himself said. This is a JSC. What he himself said. He said that, and he relied on the case of Ejiampofu and AMA. Versus Ejiampofu versus AMA and Attorney General. And that case was in 2007. Which defeats his own argument that there has been a certain line of cases that this particular Supreme Court has deviated from. And those line of cases includes Sam versus Attorney General, Eduse versus Attorney General, J. Ampofu versus Attorney General. And in the case of the Federation case, this is what he himself said. And the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court is not ousted simply because of the provision sought to be enforced. The court's jurisdiction in such a case is determined by whether or not the plaintiff is pursuing a personal interest, as in the case in the Eduse and Bimpombuta cases, as well as the case of Upon versus Attorney General.
So what's your issue there?
When there are issues bordering on fundamental human rights, you need not show a personal interest when you want to go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has a concurrent jurisdiction with the High Court with issues of fundamental human rights. And this is even confirmed with Article 130. Article 130 says that subject to the jurisdiction of the High Court in the enforcement of the fundamental human rights and freedom as provided in Article 33 of the Constitution, the Supreme Court shall have exclusive original jurisdiction in all matters inclusive of the provisions in Chapter 5. That is fundamental human rights. So the Supreme Court has concurrent jurisdiction to sit on all matters inclusive of the provision of Chapter 5. So Justice Atuguba cannot say, especially in his own judgment that he has
the judgment you reference. At what point is it at variance with what he said today?
Exactly.
No, at what point exactly? What is it at variance?
Because you see, he was trying to say that in the cases of Mankenifa and all, these are recent cases, which the Supreme Court has deviated from, especially also in the case of Afenyo Maken versus the AG, from older cases. And I am pointing to you those older cases which he himself was part in 2007 and 2010. There hasn't been any deviation. The Supreme Court has been very consistent from its decision when it comes to jurisdiction. And I am saying that in terms of jurisdiction,
you read his position in part. You would have done our viewers and listeners some good if you read his position in full, as espoused. What you have just read is the preliminaries of what he said in that particular case. Is it not?
Sorry, Alfred. I'm saying that.
No, I need to put that on record.
He's saying that.
This is not the full complement of his ruling.
In the long decided cases over the period, the Supreme Court in this particular case, that is Afenyo Market versus the AG, the Speaker of Parliament, the decision that emanated from the court is a total deviation from what has been happening. And I am pointing to you those older cases, some of which he himself was part, which he supported the very decision of this particular case, which is Afenyo Market versus the Speaker of Parliament, where he agreed with the majority decision that concurrent jurisdiction can happen or can arise where the Supreme Court and the High Court will have the same jurisdiction to pronounce on the matter. In this particular case, when it was bordering on the fundamental human rights of persons. And I'm suggesting to you that because of Article 2, when there are issues that is bordering on fundamental human rights, you don't necessarily need a personal interest
But
no, hold on. Because this one, because you see, Afenyo Markin did not have a personal interest in this matter. So he decided to, based on Article 2 and 130 as combined effect, to go to the Supreme Court to invoke the original exclusive jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. So Justice Atuguba cannot say that this Supreme Court has deviated from the older cases. And I'm suggesting to you that those older cases, some of which he himself has been part, have supported the current position of the Supreme Court. So it cannot be the case that there has been a deviation.
Didn't have personal interest in this matter. It depends on how you look at it.
Exactly.
If you say he doesn't have a personal interest in this matter,
fundamental human rights has not been affected. Fundamental human rights of certain 4 persons has been affected. And for that matter, he himself do not have a personal, what do you call it, personal interest in the matter.
How do you argue this?
Versus did he have a personal interest?
No. It's about latrine. Do you know what the facts are? Latrine. People carry latrine. Was it Ejechum who was they said Ampofo? Was he the one to carry the latrine? So he's a lawyer. He doesn't carry latrine on his head. By this one, Antonio was there to make sure that the 4 seats, the 3 at least out of them are retained, so that they will continue to have a majority.
The issue of whatever happens in Parliament is a closed book. So what JSC said in 94 versus Attorney General, that indeed whatever happens in Parliament is a closed book. That was the 1980 case. So what JSC, based on the 1979 Constitution and its provisions, to make such a pronouncement. In our current Constitution, Article 125 is very clear when it says that final judicial power resides with the judiciary. So irrespective of whatever happens in Parliament, especially when there is a ruling, which ruling I am saying that first and foremost, the Speaker of Parliament did not have that jurisdiction to even give that ruling. Because if you listen to what my honorable member Sam George said, then the Speaker of Parliament should have deferred or should have allowed any member of Parliament to have gone to the High Court to declare those seats vacant, because he himself did not have that jurisdiction to do so. If that is the argument to go by. Because Article 125(3) is very clear. The final judicial power rests with the judiciary.
It doesn't mean people cannot interpret the Constitution.
If the Speaker of Parliament makes a ruling in Parliament, the Supreme Court has every right to pronounce on such a matter, or if you like, to have a judicial review of what has been done in Parliament. And so it is not illegal, it is not unconstitutional for the Supreme Court to assume jurisdiction in this matter, and for members of Parliament to hide behind, whatever happens, whatever happens in Parliament is a closed book, and it's a no. Article 125.
But in our Constitution, actions.
You made your point, but he's concluded. So what are you going to do, Zazafa, about Article 3(9) in your Constitution? NPP's Constitution.
I'm saying that Article 3(9) is valid.
It's valid?
Yes. Unless or until it comes interface with the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. All laws in this country are subservient to the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, and any provision in those other laws which is at variance with any provision of this Constitution of Ghana shall, to the extent of that inconsistency, be declared void and null.
Is 3(9) consistent with the provisions of the Constitution?
Absolutely, it is, because when you read Article 97, but you
just indicated earlier that this provision is unconstitutional.
I'm saying that anytime you are changing your position, that comes interface with the provision of a Constitution of Ghana.
This has come interface with the Constitution of the provision of Ghana.
Read that for the hearing of your public.
A member of the party who stands as an independent candidate against the officially elected member of your party, or who joins or declares his or her intention for another political party, or for an independent candidate, when the party has sponsored a candidate in a general election or by-election, and the emphasis there is automatically...
Now, why are you dwelling so much on this one when it is coming interface with the Constitution?
So it's now void.
Because when it's void, you see, it is void only when it comes interface with the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. It doesn't make it void when it stands alone.
So it's now void.
That is why I'm saying that the facts
are different when you link it with Hobson and all those. Because Hobson and those guys are not members of Parliament.
I'm linking it to Cynthia Morrison and Kojo Asante.
Yes,
is now void.
Of Parliament.
Is now void.
Yes, they are members of Parliament.
This is now void.
So when it is coming interface with the Article 97, this is void.
The George.
You know, one of the four is an NDC member of Parliament. And I can state without equivocation, and I would invite ECHO to do same, that on the NDC Parliamentary Caucus platform, as soon as he declared himself and filed, and the notice of polls came, it was put on the platform, and he was asked, is this true? He came with an explanation of why he thought he had to go independent.
Is that Memphis Central?
Yes, Pitaka. And then I think it was either Ayerga or Roxon put the constitutional provision of 97 on the page. The gentleman on his own exited our platform.
He exited your WhatsApp platform?
Yes. Because 97 says the member shall vacate as soon as he does it. And since then, Peter Kwacheaka has not come to Parliament to sit with us or anywhere else because he recognizes what the Constitution says. The Constitution says once you do so, you vacate your seat. 97 is clear, it's unambiguous. And that's why we keep saying the Speaker did not declare anything vacant, because nothing rests with the power, within the power of the Speaker to declare anything vacant. That vacancy is occasioned by action. In 97, 1 G and H, the Constitution is clear that you do this,
this is the
consequence. So it's as though it's the same way the Criminal Offences Act to say, if I take Professor Jampo's phone without his permission, it constitutes theft. I don't need anybody to explain. Once his permission was not sought, and once I have acquired it for my own use, it is theft. And look, you may like Justice Atuguba or not, but his scholarly exposition this morning on what is going on in the courts should cause for introspection and reflection by any true lover of this country and our democracy. That look, where we sit as a country, and look, it takes a lot for a judge of his caliber to make these comments publicly. Let's not take it for granted. It is also important that we recognize the comments that have been made by Sophia Akufu. What, so Sophia Akufu is also peeved?
I'm saying so, but he is peeved for not being seated.
No. The former
make your point.
CJ, the one who picketed. No, that's Sophia Akufu, yes. Yeah. Again, she was CJ. She's been speaking.
And she's a Kufuado's
relative. So at the end of the day, when people are speaking, it is important that those in power pay attention. Let me say once again that the logic or lack thereof in the argument by the majority leaves us with a cause for worry.
Okay.
But I will stand at this juncture to respect the exposition of Lovelace JSC and Amadou Tanko JSC. It gives me hope that there is still some modicum of common sense left at the courts. Again, the point must be made here, and I would give you evidence that the Chief Justice is only interested in pleasing the whims and caprices of President Akufo-Addo.
Why say that? Why?
First and foremost, the Chief Justice, we all know she was not the most senior person on the courts to be made Chief Justice. President Akufo-Addo jumped people and made her Chief Justice. And so to please him, at the last bar conference, she went there and spoke about President Akufo-Addo. This same President Akufo-Addo who has destroyed this economy, being a legacy president. What legacy is he leaving?
I said he's the best.
He said he's the best.
So like what?
President Akufo-Addo has made it clear that he doesn't want to sign the LGBTQ bill. The Chief Justice has single-handedly ensured that the bill doesn't go before President Akufo-Addo.
But if this case is going to be heard on Tuesday, Tuesday, listen, and they've given the reasoning that the reason for the delay is because
I have lawyers here. I have lawyers here. No,
and the speaker's lawyers haven't filed. But you know this, don't you?
Stop regurgitating.
You know this.
Stop regurgitating the excuses.
You know this.
The excuses that make no common sense. Look, and today the takeaway word from this panel is common sense. Look.
But that is the decision. In fact, that is the explanation they give.
I am telling you that the Chief Justice is lying.
Why?
When the Chief Justice writes to Multimedia, and I've seen the letter because the Chief Justice copies me in the letter to Multimedia, where they write to me, they wrote to Multimedia saying that you granted interviews to me on certain issues and I made, and they are setting the record straight, and they copied me in that letter. And I'm saying that the Chief Justice is lying. When the Chief Justice says that the case before the Supreme Court on the LGBTQ has not been fully heard, and so she cannot pass judgment. The injunction case, which is the reason why Parliament cannot transmit, has been fully heard. The Chief Justice on her own decides that even though injunction case has been heard fully, she wants to hear the substantive case before she will rule on the injunction, effectively placing an injunction on Parliament without saying so. And that is the reason why today the clerk has held back until the Speaker's recent declaration that he should resend it. The clerk is saying that because the Supreme Court has not ruled and the Chief Justice intentionally has not ruled. So it is not true that the LGBTQ case, the injunction has not been heard. All arguments have been made. All the positions have been completed. All that is left is for a declaration by the Supreme Court. She's failing to do that because she doesn't want to put. She is supporting President Akufo-Addo to support LGBTQ, and it is a shame that the Chief Justice stands in church at ICGC in Tema to preach.
So no,
and she's not willing to walk her talk. And listen, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. No, it's not about going somewhere. Look, today we are speaking for this nation and we are telling the truth. The Chief Justice is simply seeking to please President Akufo-Addo.
What's your point? Because you're just...
my point is that the Chief Justice is seeking to please President Akufo-Addo. And President Akufo-Addo and Lawyer Martin Kpebu makes the point that President Akufo-Addo has an axe to grind with some people on the bench. Do you know, as we speak right now, they brought 2 judges that Parliament, but that's not the reason they are forcing for us to come, approved to the Supreme Court from the Court of Appeal. Who are the 3 most senior people on the Court of Appeal today?
Thank you. Senor Jamefe.
One of them.
He is the most senior.
Senor Jamefe, he's the most senior. Justice Senor Jamefe, he's the most senior. The second one is Justice Dennis J. The third is Justice Subare. These 3, because President Akufo-Addo doesn't like them, and I'm saying it without equivocation, because he knows that they will not do his bidding like the CJ is doing. He has decided to overlook them and has promoted several of their juniors. President Akufo-Addo has bastardized the institutions of state. He's over-politicized the Supreme Court, and we must call the president out and his accomplices in the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice. So look, I am stating emphatically that look, Afenyo rant, there's an East African proverb that when a thief tells you to go to court, it's because his brother is the judge. Afenyo comes from Winneba, the Chief Justice comes from Winneba.
How is that related? What's the meaning of that?
There's a Winneba connection going on there.
How?
And that's why the Chief Justice is playing this game.
How do you prove?
And that's why the Chief Justice is playing the game she's playing.
How has that reflected in anything?
Listen, it has reflected in the fact that the Supreme Court has purported to give a majority ruling. That is of no consequence. Look, this is the first time you have a Supreme Court. Someone has come to you saying that give me 4 declarations. In fact, seeking 4 reliefs. The first one is for you to make an interpretation. Subsequent to your interpretation, they want you to grant reliefs to them. That prevents the Speaker or any officer of Parliament, in this case the Marshal of Parliament, from preventing. Because listen, the Speaker can recall Parliament. Yes, the Speaker can recall Parliament and issue an instruction to the Marshal to prevent those 4 MPs from coming onto the floor of the House. And that is what Afenyo went to court seeking. Now, the Supreme Court claims to have given a ruling, but the ruling does not give them those reliefs. So there is nothing on the Speaker preventing the Speaker. And that is why, once again, I say, thankfully to God, all hope is not lost. The dissenting judgment by Lovelace JSC and Justice Abdullahi Tanko gives me hope that there is still common sense on our bench.
I have to go for a break. When I come back, we'll focus on this matter quickly. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly after this quick break.
Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia #1 on the ballot.
The luckiest.
Star 712#.
Luck is everywhere. 8K. Hey, you get an 8K. Get that packing so you have to come out. Hey, wait.
You go put it on his tab. This is my man.
Good luck. Hey, Bill Radio. We have star 712. It's what you phone. I'm on dialing the magic numbers. Star 712. Now welcome to the luckiest. And now with me at home ticket. You can buy for yourself or your loved one.
Mommy, tell mommy who's here.
You're buying for me, right?
Or who else?
Oh.
Let's choose buy tickets for others.
Love you, boo boo.
So maybe straight to option 4. Now we you need to buy tickets worth 50 Ghana to qualify. Yes, you can buy random or preferred tickets. I'm choosing random tickets. Listen, if you buy the random ticket, the system chooses a random number for you. But if you buy the preferred, you get to input your own preferred 5 digits. 5.
Baby, give me your 5 numbers.
And how much are we buying?
Babe, look at the body and buy you.
With your body, Hey, there tread cautiously. Now follow the prompts. Now the luckiest.
The luckiest is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform, not for persons below 18 years. TNCs apply.
A vote for the MPP candidate in this 2024 election is a vote for a 3rd term for Nana Akufo-Addo. Why they are desperate to break the 8 is to do a cover-up of the 8 years of atrocities that they have inflicted on Ghanaians.
Stand this way. Go this way. Come this way.
Vote John Dramani Mahama for president. Trustworthy, honest, and reliable. Vote for change. Choose the umbrella. Vote John Dramani Mahama and the NDC.
Monday, I spent my whole day in Parliament. Mr. Speaker was not available. Tuesday, same. Later in the afternoon, I was told that Mr. Speaker was challenging the okayedness of the court. So he has instructed his lawyers to file a motion to set it aside. So we should go to court. When we return from court, we'll see what to be done. Put that aside. The Council of State reached out to me again, that they have spoken to Mr. Speaker, and Mr. Speaker concedes that he has not made a ruling and that the NDC will move to their own seat. He gave them the assurance.
Welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and on DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. A number of your messages have come through on this particular issue, which we will get into right now. Now, Nanaya says that we must all develop that instinct of, you say, speaking truth to power and demanding that the right things be done. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that this nation, it says, remains and moves forward. Thank you. This one here also, it's quite a lot. Mansa Musa, thank you very much for your message. This one is asking of Bobby Bunsen here to leave us at some point, and then also Vincent Asefua, thank you. Musa Abatwa in Aswasi, I'm not a lawyer, but our constitution is not written in Chinese. Applying the law without practical, you say, reasoning undermines its purpose. Article 97 is clearly the conditions under which a member, you say, of Parliament must vacate their seat. Thank you very much. This one here from Lord Denning, you say, says, good morning. I just want you to ask Sam George, since he's been making the point about they intentionally delaying this case. The Supreme Court will hear the anti-gay suit on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the lawyers of the Speaker and the Attorney General are the ones who haven't filed their processes. And so this matter cannot be blamed essentially on the Chief Justice. I think that's the question that I was asking him as well on it. Thank you very much. No, you already asked I asked the question and you responded. So okay, there's really no need to have you respond again. I acknowledge the many of you who have sent us, in fact, 4,963 of your messages. I thank you very much for sending them. And even though I couldn't read all of them, but Council, but let me just quickly say this, that this morning I've been clothed by Kogra Clothing. It's the best version of you, and Professor Jampo, your request has been duly heard and will be granted.
Oh, so it's been heard in perpetuity. They always hear it, but they don't. Granted. But I wanted to make a few comments.
Yes. So, Kogra Clothing is the best version of you. Locate them on the Spintex Road, 18 Junction, opposite the Allied Oil Filling Station, ground floor, same building within the Ghana Made store. Contact Kogra Clothing for this and many other nice apparels on 0244 238 341. That's 0244 238 341. Choose Kogra Clothing. It's the best version of you. You can reach them on WhatsApp as well, 0500 9099. I need to apologize that I couldn't read all of your messages. In fact, there are so many of them. This system got a bit jammed up. So apologies. Apologies for this.
Yes, I'm doing a program.
So, yes.
All right, so I wanted to say that, you see, so what the Supreme Court has done...
Let me say this, that Vincent Issafour also had to leave us to attend to a very important issue.
I wanted to say that, so what the Supreme Court has done, in my view, has not brought finality to the brouhaha, the impasse between the legislature and then the courts itself. I am expecting that we would act to ensure that Parliament sits to complete its term, and then let us find a decent way of going about this, because it appears that, look, all that have happened is a show of people's ego and the ego of some leaders of some political parties, in Parliament. And I'm thinking that if we have matured minds, if we had matured mind leading, this process, we wouldn't have gotten to where we are. It doesn't appear clear to me that Parliament is going to be reconstituted, and so it means the rest of government business is going to be suffering. And I am hoping and praying that in future, if the Supreme Court is brought into this picture in this particular manner, it would act in a way that would salvage or keep its respect and credibility that it has to maintain. You don't quickly jump into such matters that are purely political, such matters that you could have ordered Afenyo Markin to go consult his own or go caucus with his own brothers and sisters in Parliament to resolve. You jump in, you see, Asurubwa, one of your firm, you see, if the bird that stays up always wants to come down to eat, okay, it is a trap that is down that would catch it. So if you quickly jump into these matters, okay, then you will be tagged, and then all the bastions, will come to you. So Supreme Court, this should be a lesson to you. You have not resolved anything. You've rather deepened the crisis in which we find ourselves in. And I'm calling on other interventions to bring resolution, of this impasse?
Well, Dr. Kwame Asante sends a message. I need to read this very quickly. Apologies. You know what? Sam George, you make your point in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I just think that, look, the Supreme Court should have stayed away from this matter completely, should have respected itself and respected the separation of powers, and told Afenyo point blank in his face that this is not the forum. If you have any case, go to the High Court.
Okay.
They've taken us on a frolic of no consequence. But let me use this opportunity to say a very big thank you to Media General for the support that they are giving to us. I got a pretty good discount from Media General. We're doing Ningo Pram Pram in worship.
Oh, right.
Next week, Friday.
Your worship.
Yeah, I mean, others did campaign launches and all. We didn't do a campaign launch. We went out, we've done our campaign, and we're pretty confident of a large victory for John Mahama and Sam George. And so on the 22nd, that's next week, Friday, gates open at 5 p.m. We are going to hold a Thanksgiving, a night of prayer, worship, and thanksgiving to God for peaceful elections, and pray to God that President Akufo-Addo is still president into the next election. God touches his heart so that we don't have another 8 innocent citizens die. But it's going to be a night of worship and prayer. Okay. And so everyone is invited to join us to thank God and lift up an altar for the peaceful elections, so that we don't see the loss of any Ghanaian life again. But once again, let me reiterate the call.
You have made your point.
No, I'm reiterating the call that I won't come to Parliament before elections, because we are 3 weeks away from the elections. Any attempt to recall us will be an exercise in futility. We won't come.
Okay. If I hope that's the position of your constituents.
Ghana
but thank you.
We'll come back after the election, so we can. Parliament can be recalled after the 11th of December.
If you keep talking, we'll take our discount back.
What sort of Charlie lawyer? Lawyer, the guy. Yes. Please represent me.
An agreement is an agreement.
Sam George that's what's not right. Sam George is a member of Parliament for the Ningo Pram Pram constituency. Also to you, Martin Pebo, thank you. Professor Ransford Jampo, thank you. Vincent Asefua, also Justice William Atuguba, and retired Bobby Banson as well. I am Alfredo Kanse. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much.